And YouTube says we are live. Hello. All right. Last week, the last stream, we had unexpected interference. Radio signals from truckers got picked up. And I thought the problem had gone away. But yesterday, when I was recording a lesson, in my headphones, I could barely hear that stuff happening. So I'm afraid my audio interface may be what's picking it up. So that's off today. Hopefully that does not interfere with the sound quality further than issues I currently have. So hopefully things are still heard well enough. And all that. So if the radio thing does happen again, please tell me, anyone watching, because I got to try doing things in here to figure out how I can get rid of that. Because I do intend on making Fridays, for the time being, a live stream day. Hello, Max. And I can't be doing this and have truckers talking over it. That would just be a bummer. So yes, Joe Lou, hello. We are back to clout chasing today. And, I'll do the disclaimer up front now. The purpose of these reactions, yes, part of it, I know I'll be accused of it, is to use people, or to, take advantage of people who are doing much better than me and do reactions to their stuff because it is good for views. Yes, I am doing that for that reason. It's good strategy, I'm told. Other thing is, we're watching stuff that pertains to what I do, what I know, see what discussions we can create from it. And I'm quite excited about this one, because the video we're going to start with is called 10 Things I Don't Miss About Teaching Private Music Lessons, from the channel The Art of Guitar. And currently he has 872,000 subscribers, so way better than me. I don't even have 10,000 yet. But anyway, I have seen some of his stuff before, and I do like the content he puts out. So, any of the other stuff that we watched today is, well, we'll see. I think I just need to put disclaimer crap at the beginning of any of the edits I finally get up on these live streams. But anyway, the point of these is not for me to be a dick. Maybe. I guess depends on the video. But anyway, let's get into it. And yeah, if any sound interference, anything weird comes up, you can't hear anything, please let me know. Got to go real simple with this stuff for the time being until upgrades can be made, and we are certain the truckers are not talking. So, let's get into it. I have not watched this video before. I'm very curious if he and I have shared similar experiences, because yeah, there's quite a few things about teaching one-on-one lessons that can be not fun. I'll put it that way. Here we go.
Hey everybody, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. I'm here today with kind of a throwback type video. I used to do these all the time, and it's been a while, so I thought I would do one up again. So I'm just going to hold a guitar in my lap the whole time, even if I don't play it, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's what I used to do all the time when I would do videos like this, but also because when I taught private lessons, I constantly had a guitar on my lap, and I would talk all day long, so this feels really comfortable to me. So I've been teaching private lessons for over 30 years now, and just recently, in the last few years, I stopped teaching full-time private lessons, and I'm doing the YouTube and the website thing full-time now.
30 years. That's way longer than me. I guess you want to talk about when I went full-time with this and I stopped doing another job. January 1st, 2010 is when it officially happened. I've been teaching a bit longer than that on the side and building up the business, but damn, 30 years, over 30 years, that's crazy. I guess I've been doing it for, if you count the main job, the only job, yeah, just We're on year 14 right now.
And I thought it would be real fun to talk about the 10 things that I really disliked about teaching private lessons. But later on, I'm going to do another video about the 10 things that I loved about teaching private lessons, so it balances out. And by the way, this is not in any particular order, so it's not going to go from like 10 to 1, 1 being the worst thing. I didn't want to do like a rating type system. I just wanted to tell you 10 things. The first thing that I really disliked about teaching private lessons was hearing excuses from students of why they didn't practice. It's real
Goddamn right. Fucking hate that shit. Hate it. Thankfully, I don't have to deal with that very much anymore because I've changed how I look for students. Try to make it very obvious. I am only interested in people who are willing to work, who want to learn, who want to improve. In fact, one of the policies that you have to agree to when filling out the registration to get started with lessons is, can you practice 5 days a week, at least 5 days a week for at least 30 minutes at a time? If the answer is no, we don't work together. If the answer is yes, okay, we're on the right track. But yeah, I had plenty of kids and teenagers that definitely didn't practice. I even told one of the kids' parents, his dad, how it seemed like this guy, he wouldn't do anything throughout the week. And the dad was okay with it. Totally fine with it because like, oh yeah, it's like, one of those little fun things he can do, and he's fine with it. And that pissed me off because, he's basically coming in for like a 30-minute babysitting service, which I was not interested in doing. But yeah, I want my students to improve. Like, the whole point of this is to get better. At least that's the point for me anyway. So yeah, I understand this one very well. Making excuses to not practice or why you didn't practice. Yeah, awful. Sometimes there's legit reasons, but kids and teenagers are notorious for bullshit. Hey, let's see what else he has to say.
really funny because at first I used to take it real personally. I always thought maybe I wasn't inspiring people enough or something. And then after a few years of that and hearing the same type of excuses all the time, I got really keen on it. It was like I had a sixth sense.
I have a guitar sitting on my floor.
Yeah.
I walk past it. Oh, I should practice my guitar.
So you just forget. That's number 2. Okay, that's number 3. You're delegating it?
And it's crazy how they look at me kind of surprised because they're so used to giving excuses to their teachers and parents and everything. But I was just like, I don't want to hear it. I wasn't being mean about it.
Goddamn right, he doesn't want to hear it. None of us who do this job want to hear that shit.
But I was just like, let's just get to the lesson. Wherever you're at, I'll know right away. And we'll just take it from there. So that felt really good to take that stress off of my shoulders, not taking the blame for them not practicing. Number 2 might seem...
Probably should wait till the end of his explanation and then start running my mouth. I don't think I ever took it personal when someone didn't practice. I got irritated that they wouldn't practice. Now, I did try changing some stuff for some people to try and help them enjoy things better. And I did a lot of do what the student wants or asks for in order to get them to do something. And it's like guaranteed, as soon as you do that, they're out the door very, very fast. So even though I would give like kids, teenagers, and adults exactly what they asked for, like, they weren't enjoying the material or whatever, it ended up being work that they weren't expecting. So I did all right, well, what songs are you interested in? Maybe we can do something with that, which I do not do anymore. But even when they had that, they wouldn't practice it. They still wouldn't practice it. It's like, this is the song you asked for by name, and you're still not doing it. Yeah, it's extremely frustrating. And it's just like, I know that, obviously the parents or whoever is paying for this to happen, but like, I don't want to make money that way. It feels wrong. So, I'm glad he stopped taking that personally. But yeah, that's one reason I structure things different with the lessons. I don't try and just get anybody in as a student. Like, it needs to be the right kind of student. All right, number 2. Let's see what number 2 is.
Strange, but when I practicing. Number 2 might seem strange, but when I first started working, I had a lot of regular jobs. I worked overnight at a gas station. I sold CDs. I sold guitars at one point, and I was really used to having a schedule all the time. So when I started to teach, I thought this is my chance to have a little more freedom and be able to set my own hours and have days open to be creative. But as my schedule filled up and all of a sudden I had a full roster, suddenly all those days became very scheduled. I felt kind of locked down in the teaching world. It was a double-edged sword because it was nice having all those students, but at the same time, the window for being creative was quickly shutting on me. So it's really strange how I got what I wanted and all of a sudden I felt trapped again, almost like I had a regular job again. Number 3 are the 5%.
Okay, that didn't quite go the way I thought it was going to. I thought he was going to talk about people trying to change schedules, their time slots, or reschedules and crap like that. Yeah. So I wanted to have a career in music. I created one. Obviously, tons of help along the way. I mean, every student who I have been able to work with is part of that. But yeah, some people said like, oh, you're living the dream job. And that was always annoying to hear because like, no, I'm not. The dream job was to be able to make my own music, be on stage playing it, and make a living that way. Now that doesn't mean I don't appreciate and often enjoy a lot of things that come with this gig. But it's not, I don't think it's really what any guitar player really is expecting when they become a teacher. Some people think, oh, you just get to play guitar all day. Like, not what I want to play. And no, I'm not playing all day. There's a very big difference. So, yeah, it's perspective on this kind of job changes once you do it long enough. Like, I was really excited when I was finally able to quit the warehouse job I had and just do the teaching full time. But then, yeah, the people giving excuses thing, that was a big eye-opener. Plenty of other stuff that's an eye-opener, too. See if he ends up getting to the same stuff that I've had issues with. But thankfully, I have learned hard lessons in this business, and I have been able to make it more like what I want it to be. So it's far less frustrating now, and typically a lot more rewarding. All right, let's see what his number 3 is.
What strange how I got what I wanted and all of a sudden I felt trapped again, almost like I had a regular job again. Number 3 are the 5%. What I mean by that is I heard somebody say this one time. They said if you have 100 students, let's say, or 100 clients, 5% of them will give you 95% of the trouble. And I was very fortunate to have a lot of students that were really cool. Their parents were cool. Everything was great. But there was that 5% that drove me insane and actually made me dread wanting to come and teach on certain days. The worst were my students who were very disinterested in music at all. They would come in and their parents would kind of force them to take lessons because they wanted to get them out from in front of the TV or something. Mm-hmm. At times I've just felt like a babysitter. I would sit there with this kid who was uninterested. Mm-hmm. And 30 minutes would feel like 2 hours. And it got to the point where I would want to talk to the parents and say, hey, why don't you guys just come back when your kid is more interested in doing music? But I felt like I was letting the kid down in a weird way. Like maybe there was a way to break through to them and all of a sudden they would get interested in this awesome thing called guitar.
Nope.
But I hate to tell you that it rarely happened. Usually they just stayed, a bummer for the whole time until they finally quit. Number 4 was keeping...
Oh, man. That rings so true. And that's very true. Most of my students... I can't think of a single one right now who was really a problem. But there have been students that, I absolutely dreaded working with. Absolutely dreaded working with. There's been a couple I fired. I said, we're done. We're out. I'm not doing this anymore. We're not working together kind of thing. I think I've let go one person this year, one person last year. Remember the first person I kicked out, it was payday. His parents gave me money. This is back when I had an office space I taught out of. And they paid me in cash. And this kid talked about how he had worked with another teacher for like 3 years and just felt like he wasn't getting anywhere. And then when they told the guy that they're going to move on, he's like, oh, the kid, like he's about 16 years old, and parents were there as well, saying like, oh, it just felt like a bad breakup, you know, like really messy. And so when he starts working with me, you know, I hold my students accountable. It's like, you have to work, you have to put in efforts, or else what's the point? But yeah, he would make excuses for not practicing, even though he said he wanted to get better, and just it was going absolutely nowhere. And he just that payday, I remember he gave me all these other excuses why he couldn't practice, and I said, we're done, we are done, I'm not doing this anymore. Handed his mom the money, said, we're done, he keeps making excuses for not practicing, I'm not working with him anymore. The kid stormed off all pissed off. The mom felt really bad, apologetic, and it's like, so yeah, I tried to do like he talked about, like try and motivate the kid or motivate the students, because I've had this with adults too. And I tried, they're talking about like, oh, they feel frustrated, they're not very motivated anymore. And so, you know, I try and be the motivating guy, try and get them into it, see what we can do to help them feel like they want to do this stuff still. And that's another thing. Like once you do that, like it's already over. The writing's on the wall. They're on the way out. So I remember one guy, he emailed me. He said he wants to get back into lessons. We had like emails back and forth. He even did a meet and greet with him at one time. But he told me he was losing his passion for playing, and he wanted me to be his motivator. And I basically said no. I said, if you don't have the motivation yourself, I can't get you motivated for that. You have to find the motivation in you. I can't bring that out of you. Now, I can just show you what you can play, give you ideas of how to improve, show you, you know, how to do the things that you want to do, but I can't give you the motivation there. So I totally get what he's saying here about just a small percentage of people will just absolutely fuck it all up for you. It will ruin your day. And like even people I hadn't let go, there's been some people I was thrilled finally fucking quit. I was so happy when they were done. So goddamn happy when they were done. Because like they still came in, kind of did the work or whatever, but they were just an absolute freaking nightmare to work with because they don't listen. Anyway, I can go on and on about stuff. Can you tell I've had some frustrating moments? But I've been doing this again for over a decade. I'll be doing it probably just like him, you know, several decades. So if I truly hated this so much, I would do everything I could to find something else. But I'm trying to grow shit. I'm trying to expand, damn it. Anyway, yes, but that's just part of the gig. There's a lot of great stuff and a lot of things, this 5% that drives you absolutely nuts.
Keeping meticulous track of everything. Number 4 was keeping meticulous track of everything. Not just scheduling, that was a bummer. You know, before I used my computer, I just did everything by hand. So I had a folder with everybody's names in it. And I would have to make all the phone calls, and I double booked sometimes. That was a huge bummer.
Whoops.
What I really didn't like, though, was that my students rarely kept track of what they were practicing. So I took it upon myself to do it for them a lot of the time, and I would write down what each person's working on. It wasn't until much later when I got more high-tech that I actually made a website. And I could write down what we did each week, and they could just use a password, get into the website, and then read it for themselves. But I found out barely any of them were checking the website, and a lot of my work just was in vain. So that was kind of a bummer to just have to keep track of everything all the time. It just, I think, worked my brain in a way that I didn't like. I wanted to be creative. I didn't want to be doing book work all the time. Number 5 was one of...
So I'm kind of curious how he gave the material then. Because like I used to handwrite everything, but I also made sure that, or told people like, you need to bring this stuff back. Because again, I used to teach in an office. There's 2 offices I worked out of. Before that, I would do some stuff just in whatever apartment I was living in. So I've gone between apartments, office space, back to apartment, and now just 100% on Skype. Or video correspondence stuff. Basically, it's all online teaching now. But even when I would hand people like paper, you know, I did the old handwritten tab stuff. Like people would forget to bring their stuff. They wouldn't bring it back, and then it was like, well, what the hell? Like, I don't remember what it was. Do you remember what it was? Because, you know, when you have so many students, you can't remember everything. Eventually, started to provide folders. I went out and bought folders for the students to put their papers in and put it in their bag or their case, and they would still fucking forget it. So it's like, okay, I understand sometimes, you know, you leave it on the music stand, whatever. So then I started to scan everything. It's like, all right, I'm going to start scanning everyone's stuff to make sure I have a copy of it all. So this way I don't have to worry about them, you know, the student not bringing their stuff. And of course, now I use Guitar Pro to make everything. So I have, you know, put everyone's stuff in their folders, so it's all kept track of. So yeah, there's some stuff I want to do better at in terms of like, you know, like keeping track of certain theory things that we're working on to make sure it's a little bit more smooth. But thankfully, no one's complained yet, but I just kind of refine the process as I go. But anyway, yeah, it's relying on the student to always be on top of they had practice is kind of tough. Thankfully, now that it's all from home for them, they can just look at their stuff right then and there. But it's like almost nobody has their things memorized. Almost nobody, even though they've been working on like the same 2 or 3 things the entire week, the full week, they still don't have it memorized. I'm just like, how? You have 12 bars, literally 12 bars to remember and work on throughout the week, and you don't have it. It's always so strange to me. I don't know how you can't memorize it, but, you know, everyone's got different types of memory, and I'm sure a big part of it is, you know, they're on camera, and now they're feeling that pressure of like, oh shit, I gotta perform. So I think that has a lot to do with it, to be fair. And anyway, so there you go. Somehow, and I have an odd memory. Sometimes I can remember really obscure things better than other people, and yet lately, I seem to forget crap all the time. So, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, can't rely on the student to keep track of all their stuff, unfortunately, but having everything digital now helps a ton. All right, hello, Deaf World. Good to see ya. All right, well, thanks for coming in, Dr. Igor. Appreciate you coming on. All right, let's get to the next point.
One of the worst things for me, it was trying to collect from people that didn't want to pay. I had a lot of...
All right, I know I said I was going to let him finish his point first, but fuck yes. God, that shit pissed me off so bad. I fucking hate dealing with the money aspect. I hate it. I can't stand it. Anyway, I knew I was going to like this video. I knew it. Man. Yes. Okay. Anyway, clearly I have plenty of things to say about this. We're going to watch what he says first. And then, yeah, the money, payment shit, that's one of those eye-opening things when you try and run your own business. It sucks. God, it sucks. Anyway, let's get back to the start of this.
Work my brain in a way that I didn't like. I wanted to be creative. I didn't want to be doing book work from people that... Number 5 was one of the worst things for me. It was trying to collect from people that didn't want to pay. I had a lot of parents that always, you know, this one guy in particular, he always made it a point to have me come out and almost beg him to pay me. And that kind of pissed me off because I'm like, you know, who are you to do this? You know, I'm offering guitar lessons. Come in and you know the drill. Why do I have to come up and ask you like I'm your kid?
Yeah, fuck that dude. Fuck that dude. I hope he stopped dealing with that shit, because people that do that are fucking assholes. Fuck them.
For money so I can go to the movies or something. It was a really weird power thing he was doing, I think. But one other dad in particular that really bugged me was this guy who always canceled at the last minute. So if we had 4 lessons in a month, he would cancel maybe 2 of the times. And then he didn't follow the policy, so the next month would come around and he would only pay for half the lessons.
I got it. All right, let him finish. God damn it. Yes.
He would say, yeah, you owe us 2 lessons because of last month. And after a while, I kept letting it go on until finally one month he said, you know what, we're pretty behind. This month I think is free. And I was like, no, this isn't happening anymore. And I put my foot down. And it was kind of funny because his daughter, who took piano lessons with me, a couple weeks later, she got really weird, and we were doing our lesson, and she looked at me and she goes, I hate you. And she was like 6. It was so freaky. So that gave me a great excuse to just let them go. I'm just like, I don't have time for this. So I went out and it felt really good to say, I can't teach your daughter anymore. See you later. I wonder whatever happened to her. Number 6 was...
Oh, yeah. Deaf World, glad to hear you signed up. Very good. Thank you. Aha. Oh, man. Yeah. Indeed. This is actually kind of like a precursor to a series I want to do. I want to have a series eventually of like how to be a shitty guitar teacher, because I want to be self-deprecating first and talk about, things that I have learned, things that I have seen other people do, or stories shared with me that is just not a good thing for teachers to do. And then I'll follow it up with a series of how to be a shitty guitar student. And one of the big things here is fucking with the money. Man. Yeah, what he talked about there, I've had that kind of shit happen too. People like, oh, well, because there has to be a policy in place for that shit. For assholes that do that exact same thing. They cancel on you last minute. They don't understand that, you have them in your schedule. That time is for them, nobody else. So if they just bail on you and they think that you shouldn't be paid for it, they're basically like, they just stole your time. They stole your fucking time. There was nothing you could do to fill that time to make that money up. So when people fuck with your money, they're fucking with your time. A lot of swearing on this one. It is one of the most rude, shittiest thing someone can do when it comes to this stuff. I fucking hate it. I actually had somebody screw with the money, trying to pay, trying to make excuses of why he couldn't pay at one point. And I was at a stage where I'm done. I don't want to hear any excuses anymore. Either you pay or I don't play. Period. And then he tries to give me this shit like, oh, well, I couldn't transfer my money to the bank in time. I thought we were friends and this and that. Like, fuck you. You are not my friend, because friends do not do that to each other when it comes to their payments and their livelihood. So any of you who have had a teacher and you try and do that shit to them, you try and use the, oh, I thought we were friends excuse to get away with not paying them or paying them late and all that shit, fuck you, you're an asshole. Oh my God. I feel for this guy. Oh man. Yeah, I've had that kind of shit too, where like people they'll skip a lesson, and like I was really lenient with payments and reschedules and shit like that. And as my guitar teacher told me, Eric Morrison of Sac Valley Guitar, he also does stuff at Skips Music, so if you're in the Sacramento area, you want in-person lessons, he's the guy to go to. He told me, do not be nice to people with this stuff, or they will absolutely take advantage of you. They will walk all over you, and he's right. And see, I hate being an ass in these situations. I don't want to be a dick to these people, because you feel bad. It's weird to ask people for money. It's a weird feeling. But it's how you pay the bills. It's how you feed yourself. If I couldn't make a living off of this, I wouldn't do it. I'm very lucky and fortunate that it is possible for me to do this. So, yeah, I've even had like people, these things that piss me off big time that I refuse to let happen ever again. And thankfully I have, stuff set up to where I'll send out my invoices a week before the new month. Everything's due on the first of the month, not the first lesson of the month, which I used to do. It was like first lesson of the month. But the problem is people would, miss the last lesson of the previous month. So let's say, right now we're in March, right? So let's say somebody misses their last week of March. They come in for the first week of April. They don't give me their money yet. And this is usually like with kids, parents with their children. The kid does the lesson. I go out to get the payment, and then they tell me, oh yeah, we're going to have to stop doing lessons. So they stole my fucking time. It is a month-to-month service. You pay for the month. You don't make it, I have things we can do to make up for that time, but sorry, if you can't make it, that doesn't mean that your teacher now deserves a pay cut because you didn't fucking make it. It's not fair. If I don't make it, I will absolutely refund that money that you paid for or credit it towards the next thing because it's my fault. But yeah, anyway, that happened a few times. That was fucking beyond aggravating. I remember that shit happened once when new people were coming in the door. And I had to do my damnedest, or I chose to do my damnedest, to stay as calm and professional as I could. But I was fucking livid. God damn. And one guy, he decided that, or we decided it was time to stop the lessons because we kind of reached a point where he wanted to be. And this was when I was doing in-home stuff. One of the last times I did that. I would drive to the person's house. And during that last month, the last week, I agreed to a reschedule because I could at that point, even though, anyway, I won't get on a tangent about reschedules right now, but I agreed to do that. I think it was like his lessons were on Friday, and we rescheduled it for Sunday, and then he sends me an email like the day before saying like, let's just skip it because of this reason or that reason. I was like, okay, fine. All right, that was the second to last week. So I go into his place for the last week of the month, and the policy states it's you pay for the month. That's it. There's no rollover if you don't do your lesson. So I had the nice awkward experience of explaining to him, because he tried, I told him, like, yep, this is our last lesson. He's like, oh, what do you mean? Oh, we have one next week because we didn't do it last time? I was like, no. So I had that fun, awkward experience of trying to tell him why. Like, no, you paid for the month. You said you were going to skip last week. We rescheduled it. You said we're going to skip it. So, no, because now that's taking that time that could go to somebody else, and it's preventing me from refilling the missed money from you stopping. He's like, oh, okay, that's fine. It's like, yeah, no, there is no rollover for this shit unless the teacher wants to do that. Everyone can have their own policies. And if you are someone who's teaching, if you are someone who wants to get into this business or do something like that for yourself, do not let people do this shit to you. Fuck them. They're assholes and they're trying to get shit for free. They're scum. Fuck them. Yeah, what? John's like, yeah, fuck you, pay. Yeah, well, it's only fair. It's only fair. Only fair. And it's just a matter of showing respect for the other person, too. Respect them. Respect who you're going to. If you don't respect them, why go to them in the first place? Next point.
Such a bummer for me because I love her anymore. See you later. I wonder whatever happened to her. Number 6 was such a bummer for me because I love this instrument so much, and it was really hard to watch guitar declining in popularity. It went in waves, but if you looked at a graph, it consistently went like this. There'd be a few times where it would go up, like when Guitar Hero came out and when School of Rock came out, you saw a little bit of a bump. But it started up high. When I first started teaching, people wanted to learn all sorts of guitar songs, like Nirvana, Offspring. At the time, alternative was huge. And then it dropped a little bit, and then Guitar Hero comes out, and all of a sudden it got great again. People wanted to learn songs that I didn't think they even knew. A student would come in and be like, yeah, can you teach me Carry On Wayward Son? And they're like 10 years old. I'm like, yeah, this is great. But like I said, it kept declining and declining. And it got to the point where it was just like, I can only teach so many people locally. And it got kind of freaky because I'm like, what if guitar just disappears from music altogether? And it felt like it was for a while because pop music was getting so big. And some kids would come in and they just wanted to learn video game music that had no guitar in it. So I would literally have to learn it on the guitar so they had something to play. That's why all this YouTube stuff came at the perfect time, because instead of just teaching locally, the small circle of people that can actually make it to my studio, I suddenly was able to teach the entire world, and I found out that a lot of people still wanted to learn guitar. I was just in the wrong region. Locally it was a lot harder than all of a sudden, bam, having the whole world at my fingertips. Number 7 was always worry.
So that one, I don't have that same experience. I mean, there's been, times where it was difficult to build things up, and I'm trying to refill the students again right now. Usually in springtime, things start to pick back up, especially when school starts again. But anyway, I never, because in the 90s, that's when I was, that's when I was learning. That's when I was really growing up. That's when I was a teenager, so I didn't start teaching, until in my 20s. But, the internet's definitely a huge help, because that allows me as well to reach people all over the place that are into the stuff that I'm into. So it really, really helps. That's one of the very good things about, the modern technology stuff, is it allows us to reach people on the other side of the planet to, keep this thing going. And I feel like you live in a small town and you want to teach metal, good luck. Probably not going to happen. And if it's a small town, there may not be enough people who want to play anything anyway. So the teaching locally can be very difficult. Thankfully, this whole online thing has worked out, because that just expanded so much of who I can reach. Because I got, a few students over in Europe. I got one guy in India. Few of the correspondence people, the video correspondence thing, I'm not sure where they all are, but definitely some overseas stuff. So, I never was worried about guitar going away. But yes, the internet thing helps out a ton.
About having enough money to having the whole world at my fingertips. Number 7 was always worrying about having enough money to live at the end of each month. When you teach guitar, private lessons, every student counts. And I didn't realize it at the time, but out of the group of guitar teachers that we had at this one location, I was being paid the least, but I had almost the most students. I was the second most popular teacher there. I just didn't know the numbers at the time. So I was barely making it every month. I joined bands and played live just to supplement my teaching for a while until it really took off. But there was a time where I was barely getting by, especially when I opened my first school. That also resulted in burning out a little bit, because I never felt like I could take time off. I felt, if I even get sick and I miss one day of teaching, that's 12 students. And that was a lot of money for me to miss out on back in the day. And I hate to talk about the money side of things, because I love teaching so much, but that's how I lived. So it was always a scary feeling every month when I noticed that there was a lot more month at the end of my money, as some people said. Number 8 ties into
Oh yeah, big time relate to that. It is scary. Like, I had quite a few people stop the holiday time because, schedules were changing for them, and they're going to do a lot of travel, and they couldn't commit to it anymore. I appreciate them, being honest that they wouldn't be able to do it. Just because if you don't have the time to do it, you don't have the time to do it. But like this, even if I had a regular job that was steady pay, I would still try and get out of it to do something more like this, because I absolutely prefer being, technically my own boss versus, doing it for somebody else, because now I have the freedom to create something far beyond what I could do working for somebody else. But I'm in the midst of it right now, for sure. Like, wife and I are trying to, cut back certain costs so we can pay off debts, as well as, be able to, move out of here. I mean, we are very fortunate that my sister and her husband are letting us stay in her guest room. Because we went from, living in Wyoming out to California. And California is a lot more expensive than Wyoming. But also did that because I really want to be near my parents and see them more often. Because we've been away from them far too long. So I'm very glad that we're here. But finances are absolutely an issue with this sort of thing. And fucking A, is it difficult because like he said, like you feel burnout. I'm burnt out constantly. I am constantly burnt out, and I have to make myself do more right now because we gotta get shit going. We gotta get shit going. But basically, I was teaching 4 days a week. I had to change it to 5 again, and I'm also technically doing stuff 7 days a week once more. Very little on Saturday. But yeah, if you take your foot off the gas at all, it feels like shit's gonna come to a halt. Like you have to continue to go. You have to once you build that momentum, you got to keep it going some way. Because if you let off too long, shit's gonna go bad fast. Like you never know what's gonna happen with this thing. You just got to keep at it. It is very scary at times. But I have filled up my lessons to the point where I feel considered fully booked more than once. I will do it again, god damn it. Just wish it would happen a little bit faster right now. Well, we're definitely not at our lowest though, but I appreciate that, Death World. And definitely, yeah. I'm glad you're glad we're here. Anyway, so yeah. Totally relates in on that one. Shit can be scary. You just get by month to month. And you want to try, like what I've learned is you want to try and have next month's amount in the bank ready to go. Because you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. Thankfully, my wife, Anna, does have a regular paying job, and it's going very well for her, so we know that's guaranteed, at least. Anyway, let's see the next point.
Number 7 a little bit because number 8 ties into number 7 a little bit because it's that kick in the stomach feeling that I would get every time a student would tell me that they were quitting guitar lessons. I never got used to it. In 3 decades of teaching, anytime a student came in or their parents said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" I could feel that feeling in my stomach all over again. It was like, Connor's getting into baseball, and I just think he's wasting his time with his guitar stuff. Of course he's going to be a huge baseball star, but he'll never be a rock star, so we're going to go with baseball. And they were usually really cool about it, apologetic and everything like that, but I took it really hard, not just because of the money thing, that was part of it at one point, but just because you spend a long time teaching somebody and all of a sudden you see them just disappear. It's like losing a friend or something or part of the family. To this day, I do not miss that feeling. Number 9 has to do with...
My feelings on that have changed over time. I used to take that stuff very personal, and it hurt. Especially when you do feel like you've gotten close to somebody. So I'm very cautious about being friends with students because... just going on what's happened in the past, like, once they're done with the lessons, they're done with you, for the most part. It doesn't happen all the time. But pretty much like anytime someone says, like, "Oh, I consider you a friend," I'm thinking, you're going to quit. You're done. And of course they do. Of course they do. But yeah, and I've learned to not take it personal because... at the end of the day, why did they start doing lessons with you? Because you're friends? No. They started doing it with you because you offered a service that they wanted. So it's not a bad thing on you, usually. At least how it seems to be. They need to stop, they need to stop. The only time it really freaks me out is when, I have, losing a bunch of people in a row. That's when it's just like, fuck. But as I also said, some students, when they quit, I'm just like, yes. Because they're part of that 5% he mentioned earlier that are a freaking nightmare. But, yeah, it's not the greatest feeling in the world. But, So maybe a word of warning for anyone else wanting to do this kind of thing. Teach people. For any kind of teaching. Just be careful about getting close to anybody, like building friendships and whatnot, because there's a good chance once they're done working with you, that's it. You'll never hear from them again. You might. And I've had some students reach out in the past, and it was really nice. But, yeah. I don't take it so hard anymore, basically. him saying that it was always the same feeling every single time. That's not for me anymore. It used to scare the crap out of me. I get a little bit worried, nowadays if I have too many gone at the same time. But you're just like, okay, fine. Good luck with what you got to do, and then just got to go on to the next thing, and you just got to keep busting your butt, keep hustling to keep putting your name out there and bring business in. It's part of the game. Part of the game. There's some emoji thing that's in the way of the chat. It keeps blocking letters. Well, you're very welcome, Deaf World. So yeah. And so basically, anyone in the chat wonders, he's saying, because he sent me, Deaf World sent some stuff of him playing and asked me, what my evaluation is on what needs to be, just if anything needs to be improved, and I told him what it was. So if anyone does send stuff to me and they want me to say, if anything needs to be improved or what I think, tell me you want me to tell you if I think anything needs to be improved, because if you don't, I won't tell you. I used to be the kind of guy who would just straight up tell you everything that's wrong with what you did. I have learned to stop doing that because you come across as a complete fucking asshole. And I don't want to do that anymore. Anyway, alright, number 9. What is number 9?
Number 9 has to do with the teaching rooms that I taught in for the first 10 years of my teaching career. They were tiny little square rooms. I think they were 6 by 6 or 7 by 7. I'm not really sure. But it felt really claustrophobic in there. And they had this bright light above us. It was a fluorescent light. I really hated the vibe. The walls were yellow. It was really gross. It felt like a really tiny classroom. So I brought in my own lighting to make it feel better, and I put up posters on the walls to make it feel more like, we're in a cool studio here. We're learning guitar. We're having fun. This isn't supposed to be so clinical. And my students never really seemed to mind. I think I was the only one with a claustrophobic problem. But to be in there every single day was kind of what you felt like a caged animal, kind of. People would walk by the doors and look in and stuff. It was kind of a weird situation. And we shared the room with other teachers. So I had this one particular teacher. He was like an older jazz guy. And he hated the posters that I put up one time. And I showed up to work the next day and they were all torn down. It's not like there was a note saying, hey, can you please ditch these posters? It was just like a wild animal came and then just tore down all the posters. It was just like, okay, this is my sign that I have to get out of here. That's why when I did open my own studio, I made sure my room was huge. Not too big, but big compared to what I used to teach in.
Alright, is it going now? Ugh, dang it. Okay.
And so there's plenty of room, everybody has enough room to breathe. You can play, you can, feel relaxed. You don't feel so claustrophobic and like you're sitting in a closet with somebody. And sometimes in those small rooms, there'd be 3 people in there. Me, the student, and sometimes their parent, or the student would bring a friend, and all of a sudden that got even crazier. And number 10 is that teaching really...
Thankfully, I didn't really have that experience because I never taught at a studio or, a music place. It was always in my own place. So I taught out of, again, apartments I've lived in, office spaces that I've had, and there was always plenty of room. It wasn't shared with anybody, thankfully. And then, of course, driving to students' homes, just wherever they were at, usually in their living room. But yeah, that's one I can understand. That would be frustrating. I wouldn't want to be in crammed in a room, and because I also now. I rely on my computer for this business. Not having it would suck. That would be a freaking nightmare to not have it anymore. I'm so used to having it all. It's such a tremendous tool to be able to use. And then sharing it with somebody else? Yeah. I know I would not care for that. So I can understand why he didn't like that. But that is one I have not been able to relate to personally because it's never been an experience of mine. All right, the final one, number 10.
Easier. And number 10 is that teaching really took away my ambition and drive to practice outside of lessons. So I would teach all day, 12 students in a row, sometimes never getting a break. I'd come home, you'd have to eat because you're starving. The last thing I wanted to do after teaching all that time was to pick up the guitar and practice guitar or write or be creative or anything. So that bummed me out because I lost that thing that really inspired me about wanting to play guitar. When I was first starting out, I had all the time in the world. I would just sit in my bedroom and I'd practice day and night. And all of a sudden, I'm already playing most of the day. Like I said, the last thing you want to do is go home and just tear into the guitar again for another 8 hours. That's why being in bands was so important, because it forced me to learn songs and I had to stay on top of my game. But I really did miss out on a lot of that open time to just be creative and have fun with this instrument. It's completely different now that I do videos because I could do my YouTube stuff, my website stuff. Then when I go home, I want to learn more stuff, not just for the videos, but just to be creative, to have that open time to do it. And it's very therapeutic. I haven't been this relaxed in decades because of that. So if you knew me back when I was teaching 60 students a week, I apologize that I was so uptight, but that's probably one of the reasons. Okay, everyone, so that's 10 reasons why I did not like...
60 students, fuck that. That's way too much. Yeah, 12 in a row. Sounds like he was, he's mentioned 30 minutes. So earlier he said with like the problem students, like the 5%, can make the 30 minutes feel like 2 hours. So say like 6 hours straight. That's tough. It's difficult. And like until you do something like this, you don't really understand how challenging this is, because when you're doing this, you have to be thinking constantly. I'm always observing what the student is doing, having to listen, make sure that things are done properly, and then being able to explain new concepts to them, and then trying to figure out, like, okay, well, how do I have to change what I'm saying right now to get this person to understand me? Because what works for one person definitely does not work for another. And then when you feel like you got it figured out because it works for 10 people, here comes somebody else that completely changes the game because it doesn't work for that guy. Like, actually, Deaf World right there, he asked me, I think you asked, how often do I practice or something like that, and I said, never. I don't. It's extremely rare that I do. If I practice anything, it's because I need to get better at something for a lesson I'm going to give, that I'm going to make a video on. That's really it. Rarely ever do I get to play anymore. I mean, I could, but it's tough. It's really tough because... like, the business, it feels like it always has to come first. When, do I have extra time? You better do something for work. If you got extra time, you better start creating more material. You better try and get ahead of everything. And it's really overwhelming, too, because everything that I want to do, I literally have thousands of videos I need to make. That is not an exaggeration. I need to make thousands of things. Thousands and thousands of things to really get where I want to go. It's fucking hard. It's exhausting. But, like I said, if I had a regular paying job, I'd be trying to get the hell out of it and do this again anyway. So I gotta believe that there is a finish line somewhere so I can afford more time to do my own thing once more. But I don't know when that's gonna happen. But yeah, it's true. Like, you start doing this stuff, you practicing your own things and trying to improve yourself, it's going to go down. Most likely it's going to go down. Because it's also about having the energy to do it. It's actually quite draining. If you've ever taught, and you talk to teachers, they'll tell you how tiring it is. Because I've met a few people that teach or have taught, and yeah, it's all similar experiences. Very similar. You're problem solving the entire time. You're constantly solving problems. So, and you're basically living in a world of problems. So, this was a fantastic video he made. All kinds of fun stuff talked about today. Let's go ahead and finish listening to the end here. There's like less than a minute left. Let's hear his conclusion.
Teaching private lessons at one time. I already said it, but I am going to put out the companion video for this, telling you about all the things that I loved, because there's a lot of that. There's actually more, but I'll keep it down to 10 for you. And if you're a teacher, if you can relate to anything I talked about today, that'd be great to hear it in the comment section. And if you're a student and any of this resonates with you, maybe you're one of the 5% that I talked about earlier, Maybe you could change your ways now that you've seen this video. Okay, everyone, thanks for watching, and look forward to that other video, the companion video to this. We'll catch you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Alright, we don't need that up anymore. I'll go ahead and learn that. I need to hit the restroom real quick, and I don't have time to put up an I'm in the bathroom thing. So, hey everyone, leave some comments and questions, and then we're going to find another video to watch. All right, back in the room. So yeah, that was a fantastic video. Really, really good. I'm glad he made that. I will absolutely. I need a comment on there, don't I? Yes, indeed. Hear the toilet from there. Wonderful. Well, that's... Yeah, there you go. Alright, there we go. Comment made. No trucker radio talk this time. Well, that's good. I wonder if it would happen again if I put the audio interface back on. Well, maybe we'll try that another time. Okay, so there we go. Time for me to go to the watch later videos. And let's see. I think some stuff I'm just going to get rid of. Well, let's see. Where was that one? There it is. Alright. See, I want to have a session where it's basically just all like shred related material. Things about like I don't know, got plenty of burnt things in the weight. Got another from that guy Justin, who did that reaction thing to last week, which he commented on, and he actually thanked me for making that, and even gave some clarification as to what he meant about a lick, which was quite nice. And he even sent me a direct message on the old Instagram there, saying that he wants to respond to the last comment I made in reply to him, but yeah, just kind of let me know that he did see it and is going to make a response. So very, very nice. Well, let's see. Maybe we should just go with the first one. I'm going to take that one out because it doesn't seem very interesting or like worth watching. Victor Wooten says, music theory is simple. There's another one with music theory is simple. Plenty of music theory ones in here. I'm having a hard time deciding which one to go with. Well, let's just see why Victor Wooten says music theory is simple.
But theory doesn't have to be difficult.
See, I have a feeling I'm not going to have much to say about this one. Just kind of I'm hesitant to watch it, but I guess we just got to start watching stuff and find one that seems worth talking about. So let's get into it. All right, video number 2 for this stream, titled Victor Wooten, Music Theory is Simple. Let's see what he has to say.
But theory doesn't have to be difficult. Let me show you.
Please.
Okay? How many people practice in all keys? Raise your hand high. Be proud. Keep your hand up. How many keys? Oh, no, I'm not. I can't ask Lucas. That's Bob's son. All right? Okay. How many keys are there? I say it. 12. Good answer, but wrong. How many keys? You were about to say 12, right? That was my answer. Who's going? Keep your hand up if you have an answer different from 12.
Okay, well, I'm very curious what he is going to say here. There isn't 12 keys. Now, because he might be going on about, well, if you take into account exotic scales, there's a lot more keys. Hello, Sheriff. It helps before warming up a guitar? No. Unless I feel like they need to be popped and it's just kind of annoying to have. It's definitely a habit. Sometimes they just feel stiff, so there you go. But no. See, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just trying to do it. But no, it doesn't really help. It doesn't hurt anything either. Just kind of a habit, really. I wonder if he's going to say 1. There's only 1 key. Let's find out.
What's the answer? 24 is logical, more logical than 12 because there's majors and minors. So we would double it.
Okay. So he is going to start getting into more interesting stuff. Like, okay, with major key and minor key, but they're relative to each other. So does it really count? Because the key of C major is the key of A minor. Is he going to start going into modes? But it's still the same key. C major is A minor. Well, let's see what he has. Yeah, all right. Continuing.
Makes sense, right? Still wrong. Okay? Don't guess. Tell me if you know. One is not a good answer.
All right. Well, I thought he may have said 1. But, all right, not a good answer. Okay.
But now we're trying to be clever. What's the answer? 30 is the answer.
30. 30 keys. I have never heard this. Why is it 30?
8 years ago. We're having our very first theory camp. 2010, Nashville got hit with a huge flood. It was like the flood of a lifetime. I had to take all the students to my house, basically. We ended up having theory with Bob and Anthony at my house, right? Candlelight, electricity went out. But Anthony Wellington asked the students how many people practice in all keys. Now, I'm the teacher. My name's on the camp. So I'm sitting in the back. I'm cool. I don't raise my hand. Of course I practice in all keys. I'm Victor Wooten.
I'll tell you this. I do not practice in all keys. I don't think there's a need to do it. But perhaps somebody has an argument as to why you should. But all keys, and especially if they're, we'll see what he has, why it's 30. It's like, That's an absurd amount. How the hell are you going to find time to do that? So far, it feels inefficient to do something like that. Like, you would need a ton of time to be able to do something like that. At least for what I'm thinking currently. My mind could change.
Right? So people raise their hand, but I'm cool, I don't. And he says, well, how many keys are there? In my head, I say 12. Dummy, you know, why are you asking stupid? He says, how do you say you practice in all keys if you're missing 18 of them? I went, 18? And he said, well, you got to think. There's major keys and there's minor keys. And I went, oh, 24. And he's like, oh, I was doing all this in my head. Other people were doing it out loud. And I was so glad I kept quiet because people didn't know. I didn't know either. Every major key has a relative minor, right? Most of us don't realize that we only have major and minor keys. That's it. Dorian is not a key. It's a mode.
Sure.
Right? Harmonic minor is a scale, not a key. Keys are only major or minor. That simplifies it already. Let's figure out how many major keys there are, and then we'll just double the answer for the total, which we already know. How many major keys have no sharps or no flats? How many? One. Somebody keep track. There's one. We can have a key with one sharp, a major key we're talking about. We can have a major key with one sharp. We can have a major key with two sharps. Up to how many sharps? 7. So there's 7 major keys. One that's neither. What are we up to so far? 8. Let's keep going. We can have a major key with one flat. We can have a major key with 2 flats. Up to how many flats?
7.
7. So we have 7 flat keys, 7 sharp keys, 1 that's neither, for a total of how many major keys? 15. That's not rocket science. That's second grade knowledge. It should be. Double it for a total of 30 keys. My man is right.
It just feels so pedantic. But fair enough. 30 keys. Okay.
Right? You could have figured that out on your own. This is what my friend Anthony Wellington showed me at my own camp. That's why I hired him. So I can take their classes.
That's why you got the camp going, so you could keep learning about shit.
You know what? Absolutely right. I was taking a bunch of nature classes, and because of touring, I would sign up for nature class. I love the outdoors. I'd pay my deposit, and then a tour would come up, and I'd lose my deposit and have to miss the camp. So I decided in the late 90s, I'm gonna make my own camp. I'm gonna bring the world's best instructors, and I'm not gonna miss it this time. I'm not gonna lose my deposit, and I'm gonna take their classes. And that's how I've gotten better at theory. And I found out that theory is easy. It's not hard. One more, can I?
Oh, please, 2 more.
How many sharps are in A major?
So I have to think about that. Because you got... No, I don't have it memorized. 1, 2, 3. 3. 3 sharps. Because key G has 1, key of D has 2, key of A has 3.
3. How many flats are in A flat major?
Oh, Jesus. Well, then that would need to be 4. Right? No. Because you got like B flat has, no, F has the 1, B flat has the 2, E flat has a, yeah, A flat does have 4. Because if you, A major has the 3 sharps, you flat everything. So then you have 4 flats and 3 natural notes at that point. I just wanted to look on the fretboard to confirm it.
Okay, what does that add up to?
7.
7. Second grade, okay? A major, 3 sharps. A flat major, 4 flats. Only add. Don't do any more theory. Only add. If G major has 1 sharp, how many flats does G flat major have?
6.
6. It adds up to 7. Ah, the light bulb's going off, right? Remember what Einstein said? If you can't explain it simply, all right, it's that easy. How many flats are in E flat major? 3. So that means how many sharps are in E major? Bingo. You don't even have to do work anymore. You got it. After all these years, exactly. After semesters, it's easy, right? Okay, if G major has one sharp, we already now know that G flat major has 6 flats. That means G flat major only has one natural note.
Yep.
Guess what it is? It's that F that was sharp in the other key. Yes. Right? So if A major has 3 sharps and they're F, C, and G, guess what the 3 natural notes are in A flat major? F, C, and G. Is that hard? Could you have not learned this in the 2nd grade?
You could have, for sure.
Right? So we have taken all of music theory and dumbed it down, really smartened it up.
Smarten it up.
To that simple.
You want to get better at...
Well, theory doesn't have to be...
God damn it, stop. Alright. How is that all of music theory, though? That's just one small piece. That doesn't explain what a major scale is. It doesn't explain, he said, like, you know, Dorian, that's a mode, not a key. Or not a key, it's a mode. He said harmonic minor is a scale, not a key. Isn't that part of theory? Understanding what all that's about? It's a very cool trick, what he shared, but everything? He dumbed down all, or smartened up all theory? Very much disagree with that. That doesn't explain what a major chord is. It doesn't explain what a minor chord is. It doesn't explain what a diminished is. Augmented, major 7, major 9, minor 9, add 9s. None of that. That doesn't explain anything there. So, alright, well, I don't see myself editing this down into an extra thing. The first video, yes. Well, there we go. Cool little trick. But no, that does not explain all of theory and does not make everything in theory simple. No. No, it doesn't. Come on. That's silly. That's silly.
You want to get better at...
But theory doesn't have to be...
Okay, I screwed up on
Hey
this.
everybody, it's Mike here from the
Oh
Art of
my
Guitar.
god. Alright. Hang on. Go to watch later. Remove that. Okay. No, we're not going to do birth today. Well, here's one. Music theory is simple when it's presented like this. Let's stick with the music theory stuff. All right.
Hey guys, Brian Kelly here from Zombie.
I tried to pause it and then that happened.
Hey guys, Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar.
Hello, Brad Kelly? Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly? Is this the Brian Kelly we went to Garrett's with? I don't remember what he looked like. Huh. This one's a bit louder than the previous 2 videos, I feel. Alright, Brian Kelly with Zombie Guitar. And first time watching this, let's see how he explains that music theory is simple when presented in a certain way. No way, definitely not him. Okay. Alright, let's see how music theory is simple when presented like this. Will he do it the same way Victor Wooten just did? Probably not. Maybe.
Here in today's video, we're going to talk about something called the Tonitz chart.
Tonitz chart?
This is not a super popular thing, and I know this for a fact because, number one, someone emailed me about this a few months ago, and they said, hey Brian, would you mind making a video about the Tonitz chart? I would love to hear your take on it. When I got that email, I'd never heard of Tonitz before. I looked it up, I studied it, I learned the practical application of this chart, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. How have I never heard of that before? I then made a post in the Zombie Guitar Members Facebook group last week. I said, hey guys, I'm going to do a video on this Tonitz chart thing. If you guys are interested, it's going to be coming out next week, which is this week now. And 100% of the people that commented on that post had never heard of it before either. This leads me to believe that this is not...
I am one of those people. I mean, I didn't comment on the forum or anything like that, but I have never heard of a Tonitz chart either. Never.
Not a super popular thing, not like the circle of fifths. I refer to the circle of fifths in almost every single one of my videos, which, by the way, if you haven't seen my recent video about the circle of fifths, which is called the 16 Practical Applications of the Circle of Fifths, I will post a link to that below. I highly advise you to check that out if you are interested in learning about the circle of fifths. But anyway, that's just a side note. In this video, we're going to be talking about this tonance thing. Number one, I'm just going to give you a quick whiteboard presentation, just explaining to you why the notes are laid out in the way that they are. And that way you can kind of replicate this tonance chart if you ever need to. So you need to understand the why, and then we're going to talk about the practical application. That's going to be the second thing. Once you know how these notes are laid out and arranged, there's just so many practical uses for this chart. So I have some extra room on my arm. I have my circle of fifths here on my arm. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll get a tonance chart on the other side or something. I don't know. Super, super useful. Let's get into it. Alright, so I have a whiteboard opened here, and the first thing I'm going to do is explain to you why the notes are laid out in the way that they are on this tonance chart. So the thing to understand is that this tonance chart goes on for infinity in both the x-axis direction and the y-axis direction. So technically you could start on any note you want in either direction, and it just keeps on going and going and going, but we're going to start out with the note G. That's what most of the charts that you find online are going to start out with. So we're going to start out with the note G. So we're going to write that right there. So we're going to label some notes in this direction here. So we're going to call this the y-axis, but you're going to put it on a sort of diagonal line here. So the way that it works is these move in major thirds. All right, so a major third above G is B. So you put a B right here. And now a major third above B is the note D sharp. So we put a note D sharp right here. Now, if you don't know what your major thirds are, you can use your circle of fifths to help you out. Let me pull up a circle of fifths here. So starting on the note G, if you count 4 in the clockwise direction, so starting on G, 1, 2, 3, 4, the note B is a major third above. If you then count 4 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a major third above. That's the note E flat. E flat is the same note as D sharp. Talk about all the sharps and flats in this chart momentarily. So anyway, you're starting on the G, 1, 2, 3, 4. B, that's a major third above. 1, 2, 3, 4. E flat, D sharp, that's a major third above. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're back at G again. All right, so when you're moving in major...
That's an augmented chord. G, B, and D sharp. Augmented. Not very common, but you can make some interesting stuff with them. And you'll find that in a whole tone scale for sure. You'll also find it in harmonic minor. So that would actually be in E harmonic minor, or you'll have a G augmented chord. Hey, let's get back to it.
Major thirds, it's just going to cycle indefinitely. All right, so now we're going to go in this direction. So in music, you have sharp notes and you have flat notes. So this tonage chart takes into account both the sharp notes and the flat notes. So in order to keep this major thirds thing, we're going to have to find an equivalent to the note D sharp right here. So right here, you're going to put the note E flat. All right, because you want sharps and flats in this chart. Then right here, you're going to need an equivalent for the note B, but we're going to put it in terms of some sort of a flat note. So it's going to be called C flat.
Yeah.
Take the note C, 1 less than a note C is C flat. There's really no such thing as a C flat. We just call it a B, but for the purposes of this chart, we're going to call it a C flat. And then we're going to do one more. I'm running out of space here, so that's going to have to be the equivalent of the note G, but put into some sort of flat name. So the
A
name
double
for that
flat?
is going to be A flat flat.
Yep.
Take the note A, one less than the note A is A flat. One less than the note A flat is A flat flat, otherwise just known as G. Essentially what we have is G, B, D sharp, G, B, D sharp. But we wanted sharp names down here, and we wanted flat names up here, and that's why we gave it A flat flat, C flat, and E flat name. So that would be essentially the y-axis, but it's diagonal. It's the up and down axis made diagonal, so that's the y-axis.
Has you
Now we need to
confused
go
more
in
than
this
before.
direction. So going in this direction, you're going to go a fifth above.
Yeah, he's. Well, let's try and explain a little bit. I mean, I get it. So, what is a major third? A major third is 2 whole steps above a note. All right, so he's talking about G. Forget the circle of fifths, and we're not going to use a piano either. We're going to use the guitar. I mean, yeah. I don't know why he didn't use a guitar there, because it's zombie guitar, but I don't know. I guess that's okay. So, what the hell is a major third? If you're starting on G down here, and you want a major third, you go up a whole step and then another whole step. So a whole step is 2 frets apart. So that's a major third. So we can go here, up 2 whole steps, and then there's another 2 whole steps that lands on that D sharp note, which gives us that G augmented chord. So that's what the whole major third thing is. So, and the cool thing about augmented chords, and he kind of talked about it, but he didn't say it was an augmented chord being used. It's symmetrical, because if you continue to go through the major thirds over and over and over and over and over again, you end up with the same 3 notes, the same 3 tones over and over. That is an infinite thing. It does not change. It's always that. Because if you got your G here, there's your B, D sharp, there's the G again, there's the B again. Oh man, that's hard. But yeah, it's... It just keeps cycling again and again and again. So that's what a major third is. And if you have multiple major thirds in a row, you end up with the same 3 notes again and again, whether you go higher or lower, and that's an augmented chord. And an augmented chord is a triad chord, which is a 3-note chord, made by stacking thirds, in this case, 2 major thirds. So, I don't know where he's going with this. I would have preferred that he started with the chart. Be like, hey, we're going to look at this thing here, and then starts explaining it, instead of keeping it a mystery and then building upon it. Because we don't know where he's going to go with this yet, right? So I would have preferred that we start with the chart, show what it's going to look like at the end, and then start explaining what the heck's going on. So hopefully that helped clear some things up in terms of major thirds, because that's what it is. Just 2 whole steps apart. That's a major third distance, and that's what he's talking about here. The whole naming sequence of stuff, there's reasons for it, and it has to do with keeping notes kind of uniform. Basically, like when you deal with your major scale stuff, you have 7 note names that make that major scale. And when you're working with that sort of thing, you have to have one kind of A, one kind of B, one kind of C, one kind of D, one kind of E, and so on. So that has to do with like naming something a sharp or a flat, to make sure that you use each of those note names only once, regardless of sharps or flats. Like an A sharp, an A natural, or an A flat, or like you talked about there, a C flat, because yes, depending on the chord or the scale that you're using, C flat is the proper name for something versus a B note, because you might end up with like a B flat and then a B. That wouldn't work technically. I don't know who made the theory rules up. I just follow them best that I know how. You can have a B, again, dealing with something like in a major scale, you can have a B flat and a C flat, but having a B flat and a B, technically that's a no, because then we would have two different types of Bs and 0 Cs. So everything needs to be accounted for there. And if you got questions about this stuff, put them in the comments there. We'll talk about it. Because we might get some good stuff out of this. Let's, hit back here, see what else he has to say. Find out what this whole deal is.
Of every note. So starting on the note G, a fifth above the note G is going to be the note D. A fifth above the note D is going to be the note A. So again, if you don't know your fifths, you can use the circle of fifths to help you out with that. That's
all right. So fifths. I would imagine most people watching this right now or who follow this channel might know what a fifth is without even realizing it. Power chords. Those are fifth chords. That's a fifth chord right there. Why is it called a fifth chord? It's a 2-note chord. If you use 3 strings for the power chord, also known as a fifth chord, it's still 2 notes. Right here, G, D, and that's G again at a higher octave. So you could end up playing this, and you have 2 Gs and 2 Ds. That's just a bigger G5 power chord. Sometimes you'll see a G5 like this, because you're playing a G note there. The A string is muted out. There's nothing being played there. And then you have your D note, G, D, G. Why is it a fifth? So interval numbers, that's what he's talking about, like major third, that's an interval number, or a space. It has to deal with the distance from one note to another. Fifth is what he's talking about. Fifth interval, same idea. It's the distance from one note to another. So these intervals come from the major scale. All intervals come from the major scale. Every last one comes from the major scale. So when we manipulate that, what the major scale is when we come up with flat or sharp interval numbers. So if you play a G major scale and you go from, and you stop on the fifth note, G, A, B, C, D. D is the fifth note in the G major scale. So just basically hold that power chord shape. And if you know the notes on your fretboard, or at least on the E and the A string, that's how you can quickly figure out what the fifth is. What's the fifth? F, C. Going up to an A5 chord. That's A and E. So E is the fifth. Your C5 chord, you have a C and G. So G is the fifth of C. A B5 chord has a B and an F sharp. So F sharp is the fifth interval of B. So yeah, you're saying here that D is the fifth of G. Yes, it is. And then A is the fifth interval of D. Yes, it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You land on an A. So that's what a fifth is. You play power chords, you are playing fifth intervals all the time. Absolutely. Question here, does it apply to drop tunings too? It has to, because this is all math. It's all math. And that's one of the big things that a lot of students I work with kind of forget. They think a different key is going to result in a different type of major third, or like a suspended seconds versus a suspended flat seconds. Like that'll kind of change depending on the key, but it can't. It can't be different, because that would just be way too confusing. Like I tell people, an inch is an inch, a foot is a foot, or a meter is a meter, centimeter is a centimeter. It has to be that. I say if you take a foot-long ruler and you throw it outside, that doesn't suddenly change what a foot is. It's still 12 inches. It's still the same thing. It has to be the same thing. So it doesn't matter what tuning you're in, the space from one note to the next is still going to be that space from one note to the next. Just because you drop your guitar down 58 octaves does not change the fact that if you go up 2 whole steps from a note, you just went up a major third. It's always the same. It has to be. Because, again, math. These are all just formulas. Music is basically math with sound. You're welcome, Sheriff. I'm glad that helped make sense there. Good. So yeah, intervals are always the same no matter what the tuning, because it has to be. It has to be. Or else we'd have chaos. Well, and even if music sounds chaotic, the rules still apply. The rules still apply.
That's how the notes are arranged on the circle of fifths. They move around the circle counterclockwise in fifths. So let's pull that up again. So here you see the note G. A fifth above G is the note D. A fifth above D is the note A. A fifth above A is the note E. So it just moves in fifths. So if you need to use the circle of fifths to help you make this chart, you can do so. So a fifth above A is going to be the note E. A fifth above E is going to be the note B.
So he clearly has the circle of fifths memorized, or at least he's really good at pulling that chart up, but I would say he has it memorized. How do I memorize the circle of fifths? I don't have it memorized, but this is what I do. Because I know the fifth is always the thing to do, I can go through all the orders of keys right now. So the circle of fifths, the idea is, as you go through that circle of fifths, it's talking about the number of sharps within a key. So we start with the key of C because it has no sharps, it has no flats. That's ground zero. C major scale. That is important. Learn your C major scale if you want to know your theory, because, again, everything comes from the major scale, and then C major, we kind of branch out from there. Anyway, so key of C, we go through the first 5 notes. C, D, E, F, G. Key of G has 1 sharp, which is going to be F sharp. So key of G, we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the key of D. Key of D has 2 sharps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Play 5 notes in the key of D. We land on A. A has 3 sharps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then we go to the key of E, and then from E we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Key of B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Key of F sharp. Fifth of F sharp is C sharp, which will land us on all 7 sharps. Going the other way, going down 5 would give us the flat keys, but instead of going down 5, I go up 4. I call it the circle of fourths because it's easier. If you go up 4 in the key of C, you land on F. F has 1 flat. Then you land on B flat. That has 2 flats. Then you got your E flat, A flat, D flats, G flats, and C flats. So C flat has all 7 flats. So that's circle of fifths right there. There's ways of using that to be musical. I know jazz guys know about doing that. At least that's who I believe uses it in a musical sense. In a way I am unfamiliar because I do not study jazz. But there you go. That's the circle of fifths. These use power chords, really. Or, yeah, just, if you know, your major scale, just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. That's it. Just run through it that way.
And you can just keep going indefinitely for as long as you want. You can do the same thing starting on the note B. A fifth above B is the note F sharp.
Let's watch this play back a little faster.
Keep moving in fifths in this direction, but you want to keep in mind that anything on this lower portion of the chart is going to have sharp names. Anything on this upper portion of the chart is going to have flat names, because you want to take into account that you need both flats and sharps on this tonus chart. All right, so now it's time for the practical application of the...
Hey, there it is. Okay. So I need to get myself out of the way here. So let's see, we got minor and major. So it looks like it's the same. You got your root note here, and then you go up minor third, major third. So A, C, and E, that's a major chord. Okay. And then the red is for major. And what? FCG DAEB. Oh yes, yeah, that totally valid thing right there. That yeah, just remember the order of sharps as they occur. Actually, my guitar teacher, when he was going through that stuff with me, was basically like use a word to associate with each note name there, so you can like have a sentence to help you remember how it starts. But yeah, that's exactly it right there. And it's like, as far as like having those things memorized, like for me, it's like, okay, that's a cool thing to have memorized, I guess. But like, is it really going to help you with playing things? Because there's like even your 7 notes in your major scale. Like each single note has its own specific name. Like the tonic is number 1. You have a subtonic, and a bunch of other stuff that I don't know. I would just go like it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. And that's it to me. It helps me get through, and I can explain all this stuff and just fine and understand what's going on. But anyway, so far looking at this, all right, well, let's see what he has to say here. Because looking at it right now, it's just like, what the hell is this? Yeah. All right, let's see.
Of this chart. So as you can see here, this chart has already been completed. I already showed you the G, move up a third, B, move up a third, D sharp, and then you just do the same thing, but in their flat names. And then moving in this direction, it moves in fifths. It moves up fifths. So G, D, A, E, B, starting on B, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and so on. And then all your sharp notes are down here, and all your flat notes are up here. So this will be a completed tonance chart. All right, so the thing to understand about these notes is that the interval between notes is always going to be the same, no matter what the starting point is. This is called equal temperament. So we have 12 evenly spaced notes in music. If you look at the piano, you have 12 notes. You can call these notes by either their sharp names, you can call them by their flat names, but it's one semitone apart. So each note from one note to the next is one semitone apart. That's the chromatic scale. The 12-note chromatic scale is just 12 equally spaced notes, and that's it. That's equal temperament.
So in case anyone doesn't know what the heck that means, basically semitone, everything's a half step apart. So just doing this. All those notes were sonically spaced 100% evenly apart. So just like, yeah, just go up a half step for each thing. So that's what he's talking about there.
So this just arranges these 12 notes. You have your flats, you have your sharps. Now you have this chart. Let's look for the practical application of this stuff now. So let's start out by making some major chords. So a major chord is just, it's known as a major triad, 3 notes. So a C major chord, C, E, G. Find your note C. So here's a C, here's an E, here's a G. So that little downwards triangle like that is going to apply to any note. Let's say that you want to determine the 3 notes of an F major triad. Start on the note F, F, A, C. It's a little downward triangle. What are the notes of a D major chord? Start on the note D, D, F sharp, A. You see what I mean? So all of it doesn't matter what your starting point is, you just do the same little downward triangle and that gives you your major triad. What if you want a minor triad? Let's try that. So start on the note C, so C, E flat, G. Those are the 3 notes that form a C minor triad. What about an F minor triad? F, A flat, C. So the minor triads are always going to form this upward triangle on this tonance chart. D minor triad, D, F, A. So you can use this for parallel minors, for parallel majors as well. So what does that mean? C major, C minor. That is a parallel major minor pair. So C major is a downward triangle, C, E, G. The parallel minor in comparison to C major would be a C minor. So the downward triangle is C, E, G. The parallel minor is C, E flat, G. So let's try for another one. F major versus F minor. F, A, C is F major. F, A flat, C is F minor. This will work for any of them. A major.
All right, I suppose that's a cool little chart. Now I understand what's going on there. Curious if he's going to be, we'll see what else is going to be happening with it, but I feel underwhelmed. It's like, okay. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. What the 3 notes for a C major chord, but see, like, okay, seeing it that way, that's nice. How do you get the guitar player, the student, to understand, well, what the hell does that mean? Why is that? For like a C major chord, you're playing the first, third, and fifth note of a C major scale at the same time. So what are those notes? C is 1. You go up 1, 2, 3. E is the third note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. G is the fifth note. 1, 3, 5. So if we go clean here, that's your major chord. And instead of doing the triangle thing there, well, to make it a minor chord, you flat the third. Take your E, flat it. There you go. That's it. Major, minor. And when they say parallel chords, like a parallel major and minor, it's just basically the same note. You flip it from major to minor. That's all it is. A fancy name for that. Feels disappointing. Feels underwhelming. And so far, it seems like this chart is only for major and minor chords. There's a lot more than that. A lot more chords than that. But, okay. Can I go over the cage system sometime? If I knew it well, yes. But I don't. So, I'm really not sure. I know that, like, it's based off of this. You got your C major chord, your A minor, or A minor. A major, C major, A major, G, A, and D. I think it has something to do with like chord shapes or like some of the condensed scale shapes. It's like if you take this and then you move it up, it has something to do with the system. Like, so I really don't know. I know, like, I think scale shapes that, like, supposedly that's supposed to be part of the cage system. I would just call them condensed scale shapes because you avoid whole step stretches. So, yeah, it is a popular thing to hear about, but I've never bothered to study it because it's just like, oh, there's a thing. Perhaps I should learn it one of these days. Or you know what? We're gonna watch a video on the cage system one of these days, and then we'll do one of these responses to it, just kind of live reactions, and see what it's all about. And then I'll try and add my thoughts on it. And if people are watching and they have questions when I'm going through the video, we'll talk about it. So yeah, let's do that. Let's learn about the cage system at the same time. Let's continue hearing about this, what is it, Tonitz chart, which so far to me, I know I sound like an asshole, but so far to me it's very underwhelming. I mean, yeah, that's kind of a cool thing, what he's talking about there. It's like, yeah, a quick way to go through those notes, but it's like, I don't know. Let's see.
A minor, A major, A, C sharp, E, A minor, A, C, E. All right, so that gives you your parallel relationship. So this also gives you a relative relationship as well. You've heard C major has the relative minor of A minor, or A minor has the relative major of C major, relative major minor pair. All that can be determined on this chart as well too. So C, E, G, what's the relative minor of C major? It's A minor. So C, E, G, A, C, E. So your relative relationship is kind of right next to each other like that. So let's try another one. Let's try G major. What's the relative minor of G major? We just use the same shape. So G major is G, B, D. That's that downward triangle thing. And then the triangle in this direction, E, G, B. That's E minor. So G major, E minor.
I felt he could have explained that better, pointing out the relative major and minor. So there's your C. Down to the left is your relative minor. So key of G, down to your left is your relative minor. And the same thing here, like key of A major, the relative minor to A major is F sharp minor. And to go to the relative major, you go up to the right. So down to the left for your relative minor, up to the right for your relative major. So key of G sharp minor is the same as the key of B major. Key of E minor, yep, is the key of G major, and so on. So down to the left for the relative minor, up to the right for the relative major. Now, when you say my right hand, this hand here, when I pick, it looks like the Ingve? Or was this what you're thinking? Easier to write notes on the staff. Not when you're a tab guy like me. I am terrible at sight reading actual notation stuff. My thing is I like having the tab and the rhythm notation itself, so I know where to put my fingers and then how long that stuff's going to last. But wouldn't be a bad. When I was trying to learn that stuff, I learned some, but it just, I didn't like having to think like, okay, well that's what the note is. Where the hell am I supposed to put my hand? So, but not a bad thing to have that skill. Not a bad thing at all, and I'm sure I could benefit from it if I learned it too. Same motion as E-Way. I gotcha. Wow, my brain just shut off there for a second. I guess we have been doing this for almost 2 hours. Let's see here. All right.
That's your relative major minor pair there. It works for any relative major minor pair. It's always going to be those two triangles. What are the notes of the C major 7 chord? Let's find out. So the notes of the C major chord are C, E, G, B. All right, so you just remember this down, up, down thing. So now you can determine the notes of any major 7 chord. What are the notes of F major 7 chord? F, A, C, E. What are the notes of a D major 7 chord? D, F sharp, A, C sharp. It's always going to be the same shape. What are the notes of a dominant 7 chord? Let's figure it out. C, E, G, B flat. All right, so you have the downward triangle, but then you keep going up. So that's how you determine the notes of a dominant 7 chord. Let's try to find out an F dominant 7 chord. F, A, C, B flat. Let's try a B flat dominant 7 chord. B flat, D, F, A flat. See how this is working? What are the notes in the C major scale? Let's figure that out. Okay, so you have your note C. F is part of the C major scale. A is part of the C major scale. E, G, B, D. All right, so it looks like if you start on your starting note of the major scale in question right there, you move in that direction, and you just kind of go like this. That gives you your notes of the major scale in question. So the notes of the C major scale are those notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Put them in alphabetical order. That's your C major scale. So that's going to give your answer for any major scale in question. What are the notes of the F major scale? Okay, so there's your note F. Start there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Good God. So, I'll tell you one thing about this that I don't like about this chart is you have to learn the chart in order to understand the chart. Like, I feel it's like an unnecessary tool to have because you got to learn what the hell this is in order to be able to use it. I mean, that's neat, but like, does this chart also have every single diagram laid out on how to use it? It seems like you need an instruction manual on how to use the chart versus a chart that gives you what you need right away. It's like you have to learn how to use the chart in order to get anything out of the chart. I don't like it. Maybe because I'm lazy. But yeah, it's... Good, glad you like that. Yeah, because that's all it is. It's just the first, third, and fifth note of a major scale. And he's talking here about seventh chords. Well, that's first, third, fifth, and seventh note of a major scale. So yeah, back to the whole math thing. I mean, that's all it is. If you understand what the intervals are that create the chords, then you can figure this stuff out. Put that in front of a student, it would scare him. Yeah. The chart is a mindfuck, you're damn right. Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm looking at this, like, because I know, you know, yeah, I know the stuff he's talking about, but looking at the chart, like, I wouldn't decipher that. I'm just looking at this, it looks like a bunch of shit. It's just like, good God. So, I am not a fan of the tonance scale so far, but we got a few minutes left. Perhaps he will bring it around and change all our minds.
Put those in alphabetical order. There's your F major scale. It's going to work for any major scale on any starting point. Who are the notes of the A natural minor scale? So let's figure that out. So you start on note A. So there's a note. These are all notes of the A natural minor scale right here. All right, so I know that if I start on the note A, I move in that direction. That's one of the notes. And then I know if I do this down, up thing, that's going to give me my notes of the A natural minor scale. Put them in alphabetical order, starting with note A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's your A natural minor scale. What are the notes of the D natural minor scale? Do the same thing. There's the note D. So start there. Down, up. Those are notes of the D natural minor scale. It's going to work for any starting point. So what about the pentatonic scale notes? So what about our A minor pentatonic?
Wait a minute. That is not a D minor scale. Nope, that's not a D minor scale. That's D Dorian. Show me that again. What the hell did he do? Yep. B is not in D minor. These are the notes for a D minor scale. It's in the key of F. Key of F has a flat. He was just going on about circle of fifths and talking about flats and shit. And then he does that. Whoops! D minor scale. Let me switch this channel over here again. These are the notes for a D minor scale. D, E, F, G, A, B flat. D, C. D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C. So this is in the key of F. It has the one flat. It's B flat. That's what it is. Because if your A minor scale is this. It's going A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's it. If you remember how the alphabet starts, you're good. You slide that up to start on D, you got your D minor scale. Which has a B flat. If you played the notes that are listed at the top of his screen, which he is saying is incorrectly the D minor scale, it's D Dorian. I wonder if somebody commented that and he made a correction somewhere. Whoops. I wonder if he said anything else that I missed that is not correct. Now I kind of want to go back. Did he say that about anything else? Or he's talking about scales. Let me go back here. Well, you got the F major scale, right? You got the B flat in there. That's correct. Thank you, Max. Much appreciate that.
F. Start there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Put those in alphabetical order. There's your F major scale. So I'm going to look for any major scale on any starting point. So what are the notes of the A natural minor scale? So let's figure that out. So you start on the note A. So there's a note. These are all notes of the A natural minor scale right here. Alright, so I know that if I start on the note A, I move in that direction, that's one of the notes. And then I know if I do this down, up thing, that's going to give me my notes of the A natural minor scale. Put them in alphabetical order, starting on the note A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's your A natural minor scale. What are the notes of the D natural minor scale? Do the same thing. There's the note D. So start there. Down, up, down.
So he pointed to the B flat. All right, so I'll give him this. He must have just done a typo in his lesson there, because he pointed to the B flat using his method. So we'll say that was just an oversight in the video editing process. So we'll give him that. Because I've made mistakes in putting text to video, and somebody points it out, I'm just like, God damn it. So I believe he knows that, yes, that's a B flat. I mean, he pointed to the thing, but that's just a typo. So, whoops.
Up. Those are notes of the D natural minor scale. It's going to work for any starting point. So what about the pentatonic scale notes? So what about our A minor pentatonic? So the A minor pentatonic scale is A, C, D, E, G. So we start on the note A, C, there's an E, there's a G, there's a D. Alright, so it looks like if you kind of do this, then you have your minor pentatonic scale notes.
Again, like, how would you know that? Did he just sit there and study this thing to find patterns? Or is there some kind of like a key to show you what it is? A way to quickly navigate it all?
We've got major pentatonic scale. So the C major pentatonic scale is going to be the same notes as the A minor pentatonic scale. You just start on the note C, and then play the same 5 notes. That's your C major pentatonic scale. So C, there's your A, there's your E, there's your G, there's your D. So there's your A minor pentatonic scale notes, there's your C major pentatonic scale notes. So just memorize that pattern. You can easily find your 5 pentatonic notes for any given starting point. Point being is that you can stare at this chart and you can just find all types of information from it. So you determine the pattern, whatever it happens to be, whether it's an upward triangle or a downward triangle, or, moving, whatever. You figure it out for one key or for one chord or for one note or whatever, and it's going to work the same way for every other key, every other chord, every other note. The pattern is always going to be the same. Since all 12 notes in music are equally spaced from one another, this chart is just a very convenient way of laying them out. All right, guys, hopefully you can see the usefulness of that chart. You could do this for anything. And
now, hold on a second. I want to catch the end of that.
Equally spaced from one another. This chart is just a very convenient way of laying them out. All right, guys.
He says it's a very convenient way of laying them out. I don't agree with that. Well, to be fair, I don't know if you noticed, I did put the video on 1.5 times speed to get through it. Just to get through the information. So he was actually talking a little bit slower, but, you know, I don't find that convenient at all because you need to understand what the chart is. And then it's like, what are you going to do? Like, make a brand new chart every single time for that? God, the hell with that.
So hopefully you can see the usefulness of that chart. You know, you could do this for anything, any scale you could possibly think of.
I'm calling BS on that one. Hello, John. Yeah, like any scale. How is that going to work for harmonic minor? How would it work for melodic minor? How would it work for Hungarian minor? I'm skeptical.
Chord you could possibly think of, diminished chords, augmented chords, ninth chords, minor ninth chords, whatever. Every single note is created equal. The distance between every single note is equal to one another regardless of the starting point. The tonus chart goes for infinity in both the x direction and the y direction.
Okay, so I guess what he's basically saying is because all 12 notes are accounted for on that chart, you can find some pattern to use in order to figure all that stuff out that you want. Fair enough.
And that's it in a nutshell. So hopefully you guys like this one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
All right, well, interesting. We're going to keep this rolling. I usually stop after a couple hours, but Friday is stream day. So I'm going to mute the microphone this time, hit the restroom real quick, be right back. If anyone's got any theory questions or questions at all, put them in those comments and let's talk about it when I get back and find another video to watch. All right, you couldn't hear the toilet flush that time. I don't ever want to see that chart again. All right, 1 second. I would like to reply to something here real quick. Okay. Alright, so there is that. We're moving this thing. Yeah, music theory is simple when it's presented like this. I don't agree. Yeah, sorry. Who are some of my favorite guitar players? Well, obviously the guys from this. Buckethead is my favorite solo guitar player. Although I will never listen to every single one of his records because, good lord, that's ridiculous. I guess really just from my favorite bands would be favorites, right? Or are we talking like solo guitar players? Or does it matter to you? Because I guess you could say, like, well, I mean, Slayer is one of my favorite bands, but I don't really think of them as, like, favorite guitar players in terms of them being skilled guitar players. I think, like, what they did, especially Jeff, you know, songwriting-wise is fantastic. Huge influence on me and the genre in general, but obviously they're not super skilled technical guitar players, but what they did for their style worked perfect. God, what other guitar players would I like just really look up to in terms of just guitar playing? Well, I just don't really, might sound odd, but I really don't look at guitar players that way anymore. I mean, you know, Max, well, was it Max? No. You, Sheriff, you said it. The hand looked like Yngwie when he's picking. He was a big influence. He's the one that made me want to play as fast as I possibly could. But it's not someone I really want to listen to much anymore, other than just a handful of songs. Other than that, like, as much as I love music and play, I'm not, you could say I'm not a guitar guy just for the sake of guitar, because, like, I have zero interest in ever going to, like, a G3 concert. I would be freaking bored. Absolutely bored. I'm more about the songwriting, not just the flashiness. Funny to hear for some, I would imagine. Even though this is called Mile High Shred, I don't really like listening to shred. I like doing it. That's fun. But in terms of songwriting, it needs more. Hello, Plastodon. Good to see you. Alright, let's pick another video. Let's stick with this theory stuff and remove this one from the playlist. I think we're going to do one more video and then finally going to call it. It's already been a little bit more than 2 hours. And I'm dieting down and I'm definitely feeling it. I definitely have a lot of respect for people that do all the crazy crap, because I know it's not easy. But the something like with Buckethead, he has a way of making really memorable riffs and just solos that when he does solos, it's just enjoyable to listen to. It's very rare for me to, like, really enjoy just solos for the sake of solos. And I used to be the kind of person who was like, solos are only worth listening to when you cram in as many notes as possible. I feel very different nowadays. Very, very different. Alright, let's see. Where's the next theory-based thing? This one, oh boy. Yeah, this will definitely be the last one because, oh god. Hey, it's Brian Kelly again. It says, if you're struggling with guitar theory, watch this. Alright, this is going to be the last one. It's a little over 20 minutes. I'll probably watch it on 1.5 speed again. Let's see.
The two biggest sources of
Oh, shit. He's coming right out the gate. Come on. I want to go back to the start. That is a very cool technique. The slap bass technique thing that he does. Yeah, he does some interesting stuff. Alright. And he does it in such a way that it sounds cool, too. It's not just a technique to be flashy. It's something that actually adds to the song in a very good way. Alright, let's start our final video for this stream. Another one from Brian Kelly, titled, If You're Struggling with Guitar Theory, Watch This.
The two biggest sources of confusion regarding guitar theory come from this image right here and this image right here.
Hey! It looks like we're going to talk about the cage system right now. Well, fucking A, look at that. So, let's see, I want to go back now.
Come from this image right here.
Alright, so C position, A position, G, E, and D. This is supposed to relate to those chords, I thought. How in the hell... Okay, so looking at this... Alright, so there's your C shape right there. Can you see that? How I'm pointing at this thing? So he's got the C note highlighted there. So there's your C, E, G, C, and E again. So I'm probably going to explain it all, but let's go through it anyway. So yeah, there's that C position right there. Where that thing's laid out right now, it looks like... Actually, let me turn this up a little for the clean channel. Okay. Ooh, got a leg cramp doing that. So if he's doing it... He's not showing any open strings, so it would make sense that he's doing it way the hell up here. Alright, so let's pretend this. All the stuff here on the left, that's your open strings. So he's got this laid out. So within that is your C major scale, or C major chord is in there. So that red dot, that's your C, and then so within that is your C major chord. All right, A position. Now, that's an A major chord. This doesn't work out too well in this position because we have to go below the fret or the nut there. So it's based off of an A chord. So what if we just did it like a D major chord instead? Let's base it off that. We're just taking this A major chord here, sliding it up to that, and then we can start this on the 5th fret. Because within that shape is that major chord there, based off of this A major chord, just slid up. Okay. The G position one, which based off of this G chord, it looks like. And then just sliding this up. Of course, it's like this here. Well, I guess you could do it like this. Ugh. And do it that open one instead. So there is that G chord shape within that. This shape, E position, which is your major scale, how that's laid out there. So it's basically, you can actually look at it this way here, because yeah, that's in there. The highlighted note, boom, boom, boom. So that shape is within, that's in there. The D position, let's see, based off that chord. And yeah, we could start this here. So basically the way it's laid out, if I actually was to do it like in a key, we'll go with C. Like, that's how I show E Phrygian. Oops. And then the next one would be G Mixolydian. So it's like a Mixolydian shape is the second one. The third shape is your minor scale, or Aeolian. The one marked E position, that is your major scale. And last, that's a Dorian mode shape. Just got got the ad for the guy that says this one shape unlocks the fretboard. Skips fuck. One shape unlocks the fretboard. I hate that crap. One shape. Yeah. I don't know if I've seen that one. But then again, I'm lucky I don't get to see ads. So that's what's going on there as far as like the cage system thing that I noticed. I really wish this emoji thing wasn't in the damn way. God, it's obnoxious. Trying to reach, like, hey, I have some trouble descending back down at speed. Is this normal? Well, I know I have more difficulty descending stuff, like descending scales, than ascending. I think part of that is because when I've practiced building speed on things, I always start low and go back and go up and then down. So it could be you just spent more time on the ascending than the descending. So it's not uncommon for someone to have easier time ascending versus descending. Sometimes it's different for others. Some people do better with the descending versus the ascending. So it's not uncommon. Not uncommon. So yeah, it is normal. Alright, and then the next thing he shows here is the 3 notes per string stuff.
And this image right here.
Yep, so it's just going through your 3 notes per string shapes in order. Yes, indeed. All right. So I guess that was the cage system there. That first shape, you can find your C major chord shape within it. The second shape, you can find an A major chord within it. The third shape, you can find a G major chord within it. The fourth shape, you can find an E major chord shape within it. And then the fifth shape, you can find a D major chord within it. And that's the cage system, apparently. Maybe there's more to that. I don't know.
Of all the different topics that are discussed in the guitar community, by far the 2 most misunderstood topics are the cage system and modes. In this video, I'm going to talk about all that stuff, and I'm going to clear up any confusion that you may have.
Hot diggity damn, we're learning about the cage system. My back is getting angry with me.
Guys, Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. In this video, I want to try and relay the same message that I've been trying to relay for the past 6 years. This is essentially the 9,847th time that I'm saying the exact same thing that I've been saying for 6 years now. The reason I say 6 years is because that's when I started this YouTube channel. That's when I started the zombieguitar.com website. So for 6 years, I've been promoting this message on the internet. It's the exact same message. Nothing has changed. The thing is, people are just not understanding. So I know this because I take part in these different music theory groups on Facebook, on Reddit. I read the YouTube comments. I'm on the internet just reading where people's problems are. A large percentage of people are constantly confused. And this all comes down to the fact that they are not understanding that there's 3 parts to understanding how music fits together into a key. So there's the scale, there's the chords, and then there's the modes. So when I say the chords,
Hang on. Let me play what he just said. I feel like I'm just going to be pedantic here. No, I'm the one being pedantic.
and then there's understanding how music fits. A large percentage of people are constantly confused. And this all comes down to the fact that they are not understanding that there's 3 parts to understanding how music fits together into a key.
How music fits together into a key. Well, when students ask me, what is a key? It's a specific group of notes. That's it. It's a specific group of notes. That's what a key is. 7 notes. Typically, yet bebop scales, those have 8 notes. So, and I don't know a lot about bebop scales, so I don't know if that counts as, well, I suppose, no, because if we go off of, what Victor Wooten was saying, you only have major and minor keys. I believe him. I believe him because, yeah, music theory can be kind of funny. So if we're not talking about exotic scales, that rules all that out. Only major, minor keys, that's fine, but still, that simplifies it because it's 7 specific notes and that's it. That's a key. Yes, there are modes that are within the key. There are 7. And as far as how many chords, holy crap, I don't know. Because you can combine all 7 notes or intervals within a scale or in a key to come up with seemingly infinite combinations. There's popular chords for sure, but I have no idea how many actual different chords there could be. There's a ridiculous amount.
So there's the scale, there's the chords, and then there's the modes. So when I say the chords, you can also say chords, you can say chord tones, you can say arpeggios. So there's the scales, there's the chords, chord tones, arpeggios, that's part 2, and then there's the modes. We're just going to call this the triumphant trinity of music. The problem is that a lot of these self-teaching guitar players, they're reading and watching videos and learning from all these various different sources. So, you know I'm not the only guitar teacher online that you're following. You're probably watching all kinds of other guitar teachers. You're asking questions in these different forums and these different groups and stuff like that. This person's telling you that person's telling you this, blah, blah, blah. So you're getting fed all this different information. That's leading to the confusion. But I really think that the main thing is the fact that a lot of these self-teaching guitar players are just not aware that there's 3 parts. A lot of guitar players are trying to figure out how to connect the patterns together on the fretboard. They're trying to figure out how to solo in key. So if there's a band and the band says, hey, we're in the key of G major, take a solo. Trying to figure out how to solo in the key of G major, up and down the entire neck of the guitar. They want to play here, they want to play here, they want to play here, they want to play here. They're just trying to connect it all together so they can solo in key. That specific goal right there, that is the scale goal. That's part 1.
Yeah, if you know the scales that are in the key of G, you're golden. So memorize your damn scales. Which is one thing I do with a lot of students, depending on where they're at, depending on what they want to learn. But yeah, just know your scale shapes. And then having to memorize is very helpful because that's how you're able to go across the fretboard all over the place. But you can still solo in just one scale shape. That's totally fine.
They may not be aware that part 2 and part 3 exist. They're fixated on the scale portion. But they look to things such as the cage system, which is about part 2. That's about the chords, the chord tones, the arpeggios. Or they look towards things such...
Question, so dropping the 3rd makes it a minor scale? No. So if you're referring back to that major minor chord thing, if you take a major chord, 1st, 3rd, and 5th, and then you flat that 3rd interval, that makes it a minor chord. If you take a major scale and you flat the 3rd, you would get this. Which is actually melodic minor. And yes, for anyone who wants to comment again, I had somebody comment trying to correct me on what melodic minor was, saying, oh, it's this on the way up and this on the way down. I don't know why that's a classical music thing. But yes, apparently the rule is you ascend in melodic minor, but you can't descend with it. It has to go to natural minor. Well, I go up and down melodic minor, damn it. That's what I'm going to keep doing. Yeah, natural minor scale would involve flatting the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th notes. So you got 1, 2, 3, gotta flat that. 4, 5, 6, flat that. 7th interval, flat that as well. So major, minor. Which is also going from the Ionian mode into the Aeolian mode. Because your major scale is the Ionian mode. The minor scale, or natural minor scale, is the Aeolian mode.
Which is modes. That's part 3 of this triumphant trinity. Now the problem is that the incorrect information that they're getting, based on those 2 images that I showed you right in the beginning, people are saying, oh, well, this is the cage system. The cage system is about these 5 different patterns that connect together, allowing you to play in key. Well, no, that's not what the cage system is about. The cage system is about something different. It's about the chords. It's about the arpeggios. It's about the chord tones. Other people may say, oh, modes. If you play here, you're in the Ionian mode. If you play here, you're in the Dorian mode. If you play here, you're in the Phrygian mode. You connect all 7 of these patterns together, that allows you to play in key. Then the person thinks they understand modes. They go and tell it to someone else, hey, modes is the answer to your problem. Hey, modes is the answer to your problem. All this misinformation gets spread around, but they're all fixated on the scale. All right, so there's scales, there's arpeggios, there's modes. There's 3 parts to it. You need to be aware of that. I wrote a book 5 years ago. It's called Scales, Arpeggios, and Modes. It's been available on the Zombie Guitar website for 5 years now. That's why it's called Scales, Arpeggios, and Modes. On the Zombie Guitar website, if you're a member of it, there's 4 main sections. One of the sections is the beginner section. The other 3 sections, one of them's about scales, one of them's about arpeggios, one of them's about modes. If you think I'm trying to sell you something with this video, I will post 3 100% free lessons. One of them's going to be about scales, one of them's going to be about arpeggios, one of them's going to be about modes. All 3 of those lessons are completely free. You don't have to sign up for anything. Click on the lesson, watch the lesson, read the lesson, 100% free. My message has not changed for 6 years. Let's now get into it. All right, let's talk about the scale.
When I go over some Yngwie type scales and riffs sometime in the future, I actually have something out. Oh, what the hell is that? An arpeggio lesson. What was it? Something about, I want to say like Too Drunk to Live? I don't know, something like that. I can't remember. My brain is crapping out on me. No, I can tell you now, he likes to use harmonic minor scales. Learn that stuff. You got your Yngwie. He incorrectly refers to Phrygian dominant as Phrygian. Phrygian dominant is the 5th mode in Phrygian dominant is the 5th mode in harmonic minor. So if you're playing an A harmonic minor, E Phrygian dominant is what that is. So basically, you just take G, make it a G sharp. So you can take your key of C, take the G, make it a G sharp. You are in harmonic minor. And that's what he likes to play in. As far as his riffs, I don't know too many. But perhaps. I know he does a lot of 3-note per string stuff. Like those kind of sweeps there. But yeah, I don't know too much. But I do know the scales he uses. Harmonic minor. Learn that stuff, you can sound like Yngwie. Thank you. Alright.
The scale is the in-key notes. So using the example from the key of G major, we're just going to use G major as our example for this entire video here. So the band says we're in the key of G major. Lead guitar player, take a solo. What you need to do as a lead guitar player in order to solo in the key of G major, you need to know what the notes are that are part of the key of G major. In any given key, there's 7 unique notes. The key of G major has the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. Those are the 7 unique notes of the key signature of G major. Those 7 notes can be found all up and down the entire fretboard. Those 7 notes form various different patterns. All these patterns connect together. It's still just the same 7 notes. So if you know how to only play those 7 notes and avoid the other notes that are not part of the key of G major, then you can play in key. You can solo along with the band, and everything you play is going to sound good. So you can visualize the fretboard using a couple different approaches. You can visualize the fretboard using just 3 patterns. You can visualize the fretboard using 5 patterns. You can visualize the fretboard using 7 patterns. And there's other ways as well, but those are just the 3 most popular ways. ultimately, no matter which way you choose, the 3-pattern, the 5-pattern, or the 7-pattern way, the goal is to just know how to play the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp, and to avoid the other notes that are not part of the key. So that is the purpose of understanding the scale. So part 2 is about the chords, the chord tones, the arpeggios. We already looked at the scale. We're already aware of the fact we're in the key of G major. We have our 7 in-key notes. If you just play those 7 notes and you don't play any other notes, everything you play is going to more or less sound good because everything that you play is going to be in the key of the rhythm section that you're attempting to solo along with. We now have to focus on the chords. So that's the second part. That's for most people, for a lot of guitar players, that's really where the magic starts to happen. So playing in key sounds good, but really emphasizing on specific notes within the key, specific notes over each chord, is really going to sound great. Those are the magic notes within the scale. Those are known as chord tones. So over the G major chord, when the rhythm section is on the G major chord, you have your in-key notes. You have your 7 in-key notes. But
I'm going to go back to regular speed on this one. I actually thought about making a video demonstrating why it doesn't matter what chords are being played. As long as you're in key, you're fine. And one of the examples would be like, it'd be kind of hard to do right now. I'm not sure really how I'd pull it off, but like, yeah, you can focus on notes within the chord that's being played, but then you really have to start paying attention to like what is being played, like what chords are being played, and then you really gotta. It feels like it's almost like a hindrance to me, because then you're sitting there trying to think, okay, well, he's going to go to this chord, so I gotta make sure I hit these notes, and then I gotta make sure I hit these notes, and I gotta make sure I hit these notes. As far as like improvisation, that feels like too much work, and it's not really improvisation. You're not just letting loose and going for it. Compositional wise, you know, composing a solo, a well-written lead, and whatnot, okay, that makes a little bit more sense to me, but that's going to take a bit more time and thinking. It's like if you're just having a riff go, just something like real simple, like if I have that going the whole time, I can still just like have that going the entire time, play each chord, you know, just good old triad chords in the key of G, and that would fit just fine. It would sound good. And that happens with a lot of bands. They have a riff going, and then like the chords or the bass line kind of moves around it, but the riff stays the same, and the lead stays the same. So it still sounds good, even though they're not changing with everything they're doing because of the chords. The riff stays the same, the lead line stays the same, but the chords keep changing, and it still works. It still sounds good. So I don't think you need to worry so much about changing your lead or solo due to what chords are being played, because if it's in key, it should sound fine. No, I didn't learn all the theory myself. I did have a teacher. Again, if you're in the Sacramento area, California, and you want in-person lessons, Eric Morrison, my guitar teacher, he's still doing that stuff in person. He has his own business, Sac Valley Guitar, and he still does some lessons on or at Skip's Music. But he taught me a lot of the theory stuff, and then I kind of kept studying it afterwards. And then, of course, working with students made me think about it more and more and more, because if you're going to teach it, you better know it. And, man, that really taught me theory, and memorization, and understanding it, because I had to keep explaining it, and it really, really helped. So, yeah, you really want to know something? You got to teach it. All right. Well, let's see what he has to say about the chord tone thing.
But there's going to be 3 notes in particular that are going to sound really, really, really good over the G major chord. Those are going to be the chord tones that make up the G major chord. The G major chord consists of the notes G, B, and D. G, B, and D are all parts of the overall key scale, but those are the 3 best sounding notes within the set of 7 notes that make up the overall key signature.
I would say, okay, why are they the best sounding notes though? What if you play them and you don't really feel that way? What if something else is happening? Because all you're doing, if the guy's strumming a G chord, because he talked about the other thing is going to sound too scaly versus making it sound like you're just arpeggiating the chord. I'm probably jumping the gun here. Again, I'm being a pedantic jerk. But anyway, let me just shut up and let him go.
Those are the chord tones. Then when you get to the C major chord, then when the rhythm section is on the C major chord, again, the chord tones of the C major chord, the C, the E, and the G, those are the notes that make up the C major chord. Those are going to be the best notes to emphasize within the scale. Whatever pattern you're playing in, you could be playing here, 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 here. It doesn't matter where you're out on the fretboard. You have your 7 in-key notes, but then you have those 3 perfect sounding notes that will sound the best over that one chord, the chord tones. Same thing applies for the D major.
I still feel that's subjective. It's going to be different for everybody. One person might think those notes sound the best, but not everybody.
Chord D, F sharp, and A, those are the notes that make up a D major chord. So those are going to be the notes to emphasize over the D major chord. Of course, you don't have to always play chord tones. You can play other notes. You can play the other in-key notes.
Good. I'm glad he said that.
But your ear is more often than not going to guide you to the chord tones. So even if you're just purely a scale player, you don't care about the chords you're soloing over, you're just relying on your ear 100%, your ear is going to say, no, that's not the perfect note. Ah, there it is. That's the perfect note. That perfect note that your ear is telling you is the perfect note is more often than not going to be a chord tone. So
That's a good point. That's a good point. But I always tell people, students, I advise, let your ear tell you what sounds good. Let your ear dictate what is correct and what isn't. So this way, I just feel like you get a really good feeling improvising like that. Just let your ear tell you if it's good or not. As long as you're in your shapes, you should be fine. Just find stuff that sounds good to hang out on. Actually, that's one of the things I talked about. That big-ass lesson I did. It's like over 50 minutes long, and it is on YouTube right now. Anyone can watch it. All about getting started with improvisation.
This whole phenomenon here, this chord tone thing, chord tones, arpeggios, whatever, this is part 2. We're looking deeper into the scale, which is part 1. This is the part 2. So what those 5 patterns that they're calling the C pattern, the A pattern, what those 5 patterns actually are is they're just the scale patterns. And if you connect those 5 patterns together across the fretboard, what you've done was you've connected the scale together via the 5 pattern method. As I said, which I posted in that lesson below, the 3 ways to visualize the diatonic scale across the neck of the guitar. You can visualize the fretboard using 3 patterns, you can visualize using 5 patterns, you can visualize using 7 patterns. Whichever approach you choose to take in order to visualize the diatonic scale, you're still just focusing on part 1, the scale. So this whole cage system in the C pattern, the A pattern, the G pattern, it's not really the cage system. What it really is it's the 5 pattern approach to connecting the scale together. So people are getting misled, all right? So that's not what the cage system is about. Let me explain a little bit further. So visualizing this G major scale across the entire neck of the guitar, let's say that we want to come up here around the 7th to 10th fret and we want to solo here. So you still have all your 7 notes of the key of G major. You still have your G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp. All those notes are contained here. The reason this is called the C pattern is because the G major chord is going to be found in the C shape. So here's your G major chord found in the C shape. So G, B, and D are found in the C shape. And then the scale pattern that surrounds it are going to be the rest of the notes of the G major scale. So what if you want to know where the notes of the C major chord are found within this pattern of the G major scale? Because the rhythm progression, we have a G major chord, we have a C major chord, and we have a D major chord occurring. So what about the C major chord? Well, the notes of a C major chord are the notes C, E, and G. So the C major chord is found in the E shape within this pattern. Here's the notes C, E, and G. Here's a C, here's a G, C, E, G, C. And so we have our G major chord in the C shape. We have have our C major chord in the E shape. And then what about the D major chord? We have the D major chord right in this pattern too. The notes of the D major chord are the notes D, F sharp, and A. That happens to form the G shape. So here's the notes of the D major chord: D, F sharp, A, D, F sharp, A, and D. So as you can see, you have a G major chord shape found right here. You have a C major chord shape found right here. You have a D major chord shape found right here. The name of those shapes, the G major chord is in the C shape, the C major chord is in the E shape, the D major chord is in the G shape. The name of those chord shapes is what the cage system is about. If you want to check out my 45-minute super in-depth tutorial about the cage system, that's 100% free. That's one of the lessons that I posted below. That is about part 2 of this triumphant trinity.
Sheriff, I believe you were the one who asked if I know about the cage system. Think we should do that? Should we watch, not today, on one of the upcoming live streams? Should we watch his 45-minute video tutorial on the cage system? Or should we watch somebody else's? What do you think?
Of music. Alright, so now we're going to talk about part 3. We're going to talk about the modes. Up until now, we have not talked about anything that is even regarding modes yet.
Alright, we'll do it.
This
we'll
is
use
another
his.
one of those things that just gets passed around the internet, and everyone is constantly like, I'm trying to learn modes. I don't understand modes. Modes are this, modes are that. So much misinformation about modes. It's never going to end. It's just never going to end. Modes is just going to be that debate in the guitar community that just does not end. And the reason is because people, a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people, they think that modes are different patterns on the fretboard. They think if you play here, you're in the Ionian mode. But then if you play here, you're in the Dorian mode. And then if you play here, you're in the Phrygian mode. Modes are not spots on the fretboard. Modes are not patterns. If you're thinking that way, if you've been shown that diagram showing you, hey, these are the 7 mode patterns, these are the patterns for the Ionian mode, the Dorian mode, the Phrygian mode, if you've been shown that, sorry, but you've been misled. You've been fed wrong information.
He is correct for sure. Like, the mode shapes like that are great, and I learned those as well, and I teach them. And it is a point of confusion for people. They think like, oh, if I'm in that specific shape, the entire thing is Ionian. But it has to do with how you go from one note to the next. Because within that Ionian mode, the one shape he has right there, you have the other modes as well. Because if this is Ionian, well, let's use the G scale because he's said we're going to stay in G for this one. So just going G to G, that's Ionian. And within that shape, if I go A to A, that's Dorian. B to B, that's Phrygian. C to C, Lydian, or C Lydian. D to D, that's D Mixolydian. E to E, that's E Aeolian, and then F sharp to F sharp, that's F sharp Locrian. So yeah, you can play all 7 modes within any of the scale shapes. They're all there. 7 modes that come from the major scale, that is. So yeah, that's true. People do make that mistake a lot. They think, oh, well, I'm playing this shape, so everything in here is Dorian. Like, no, not necessarily. It really depends on a lot of it, like what notes within the scale you're hitting, what you're focusing on. The chord progression itself you're playing on top of, that's going to make it the mode. That makes it the mode more than the scale that you're using. Unless you, for example, like you're playing over that G chord, you could technically play, well, any mode you can think of that has a G major chord in it. You can play G Ionian, you can play G Mixolydian, you can play G Lydian. So you could do that, but you got to really make sure that you go to the next, when the chord changes, you're in another mode or scale that's where, like, so if he goes from a G to a C chord, you can be like playing in let's say G Lydian when the G chord's happening, but when it goes to C major, well, the C major chord is not in the G Lydian mode. That's going to sound pretty awful, most likely. Someone out there might like it, and that's all right, but most likely it's not going to sound too good to you, so you'd have to be careful of that. Anyway, let's continue on.
What they're trying to say with that is they're trying to just show you, okay, this is how you visualize the diatonic scale via the 7 patterns method. As I said, we're in the key of G major here. The goal is to solo in the key of G major. The band is playing something that's in the key of G major. You, as the lead guitar player, your goal is to solo in the key of G major. You're focusing on the scale. You can visualize the G major scale using the 7 patterns method. That's not modes, that's just the 7 patterns method. That's one of the methods that I talk about in that free lesson that I posted a link to below about the 3 different ways to visualize the diatonic scale across the neck of the guitar. In any given key signature, we're in the key signature of G major, you have 7 chords. So the mode is entirely dictated by the chord progression. You, as the lead guitar player, you don't have that control over the mode. The chord progression is what dictates the mode.
That's exactly what I said. It's the chord progression that makes the mode. I mean, you can get fancy with it and kind of change it a bit, but yeah, overall, the chord progression is what makes the mode. So if he's playing that G, C, D chord progression, that's G Ionian. It's G Ionian.
So far, we've been soloing over this chord progression that's in the key of G major. The tonal center of the chord progression is the G major chord. So G major, that's the chord that sounds like the right chord to end on. That is the tonal center. That is the home chord. And then as you're soloing over that chord progression, the tonal center, the home note within these different patterns, whichever approach to the fretboard you choose to go with, whether it's the 3 pattern approach, the 5 pattern approach, or the 7 pattern approach, you're always kind of aware of where the note G is within these patterns, because G is the tonal center. The chord progression is in G major. The tonal center chord is the G major chord. You want to have an awareness of where the note G is, because that's your tonal center note. So it's all about the chord progression. So now if we take all the same stuff and we instead write a chord progression using just these 7 chords, we don't have to use all of these 7 chords, but we pull from this pool of 7 chords that are part of this particular key signature. And instead of writing a chord progression that revolves around the G major chord, we instead write a chord progression that revolves around the E minor chord. Then the overall sound of the music produced is going to be that of the Aeolian mode. Alright, so that chord progression ended on an E minor chord. The tonal center had the feeling that E minor was home. There was no G major chord even present in that chord progression, but I still soloed over top of that chord progression using, the exact same notes. It's the same exact notes that have been used previously. It's just that, the focal note within the patterns, which was highlighted white instead of red, was.
So I feel like he just kind of gave a good example of what I was saying. It doesn't matter what chords are being played. You don't have to hit those the chord tones all the time, because he said he just played the exact same guitar solo or lead over the G Ionian chord progression versus the E Aeolian progression. So he played the same thing over both chord progressions and it sounded good. Now you might say, oh well, he made sure to use chord tones that fit well for both progressions, because it was only just changing the G major to the E minor, I think. And G major and E minor do share two notes, the G and the B note. So possibly that's what he did. I'm not gonna go back and watch, but still, like, yeah. Anyway, reason why I don't really care about what are the chords being played, so I can make sure I hit those chord tones. Nope, just keep it in key, and I'll just gotta see what happens. And also, he said there are 7 chords to use. There's tons more. You got 7 basic chords to use. Yes, you got your 3 major, 3 minor, your 1 diminished, but he's being really simple there. Maybe he's doing that for a reason. Yes, sir, I am still here, but this is the last lesson, or last video we're watching here, so we will be ending this soon. Continuing on.
Is now the note E, so wherever I happen to be soloing on the fretboard, I was focusing on that note E to kind of end my phrases on. Of course, you still want to be focusing on chord tones on a per chord basis. That doesn't change, no matter whatever chord progression you're soloing over.
I thought he just said he played the exact same thing, and now he's saying he focused on E. Maybe I misunderstood something, but okay.
Whatever. Always, the chord tones are always going to be the best-selling notes, but it's just that, I highlighted the note E because that's an extra special note, because the E minor chord is the tonal center. Therefore, the note E within these scale patterns is an extra special note. Every time the chord progression starts back over, that note E is an extra special note to land on. So instead of being G, 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 it's now E, 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 E. That's Aeolian. So when it was G, 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 that happier sound that was produced, that sound that you hear is the Ionian sound. E, 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 that sadder sound that you hear, everything's revolved around E, that's Aeolian. Take the second chord within this key.
So I feel like there's, okay, fair enough, but it's more to that. I feel like if you want something to sound Ionian, like, again, the chord progression is going to do that, but if you're doing it on your own, like, you want to focus on the intervals that make it the mode what it is. So, like, focusing on the root and the third, that's going to sound Ionian. Even like the major 7 in there. You want it to sound minor or Aeolian, you need to use the minor third and the minor 7 as well. But like hitting the minor 6 also is very important, because Dorian also has a flat third and a flat 7. So if anything, I would say the flat third and flat 6 probably the most important intervals besides the root note to highlight to sound Aeolian. But anyway, because yeah, like what I tell students is, you want it to sound like a specific mode or really highlight it, hit the unique intervals within it. So like Lydian, that's very close to Mixolydian, or maybe it's close to Mixolydian, but it's very close to Ionian. The only thing that's different is you have a sharp 4. So like here's Ionian, here's Lydian. So it's that note right there. So yeah, you want to highlight the unique intervals that make a mode what it is. Like Locrian's an easy one, you gotta hit the flat 5. Anyway.
Key signature, which is the A minor chord. You want to write a chord progression, and you want A minor to be your tonal center, and you only pull from these 7 chords that are part of this key signature. You make that note A within the patterns to be your special note that you kind of end all your phrases on every time the progression starts back around. The resulting sound is going to be Dorian. So that sound.
So yeah, Dorian. Again, I would argue that you don't want to just hit the A note a bunch. You want to make sure that you If you're playing in that key and you want it to sound Dorian, like make sure you hit obviously the A note, the C, but that F sharp as well. Because hitting that along with in the minor third as well, like if you do root, flat third, 5, and 6, you're playing a minor 6th chord. That has a very Dorian sound. So it's really like a combination of the root, the minor third, and the major 6, I feel, really creates that Dorian sound.
That you heard right there, that was the sound of Dorian. I used the same stuff from his key signature. I made the A minor chord to be the tonal center, to be the home chord. I highlighted the note A within these patterns. The notes that I'm using to solo over are still the same 7 notes. The same 7 notes that we've been using the entire lesson. It's just now the note A is our focal note. The chord progression dictated, okay, we're not in the Ionian mode anymore, we're not in the Aeolian mode, now we're in the Dorian mode, since the second chord within the key signature is now being deemed to be the tonal center. The sound produced was Dorian. You can do the same thing with any of the other chords. If you place your emphasis on the 3 chord, the resulting sound is going to be Phrygian. If you place your emphasis on the 4 chord, the resulting sound is going to be Lydian. It works that way with all the modes. So modes are just a different perspective of the key signature. The key signature is a grouping of 7 unique notes. Depending on which one of those chords and which one of those associated notes you dictate to be your tonal center, that determines the mode. It doesn't matter which pattern you use because that's the scale, that's part 1. Depending on which chords you're playing, there's going to be notes that you're going to kind of want to emphasize within the patterns. Those are called the chord tones. There's always going to be the best sounding notes to emphasize on a per chord basis. That's your part 2. That's the chord tone arpeggio portion of it. And then which chord you dictate to be the tonal center within your key signature out of the 7 possible chords. And then the associated note out of the 7 possible notes. Whichever one of the 7 notes and associated chords you choose to be your tonal center, that's the mode. That's part 3. So hopefully I was able to clear this up. All right. So if you take nothing else from this lesson at all, if you only take one single thing from this entire lesson, just please be aware that there's 3 parts: the scale, the chords, and the modes. Hopefully I helped someone. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
All right. Well, there we go. And I do realize. So here I am saying it's not a big deal about following chords and chord tones, but now I'm talking about like, oh, well, if you want it to sound like a specific mode, but yes, the chord progression dictates that, but then highlighting the intervals in that mode to really make it sound like that mode, I mean, that's like a little bit extra you can do. Do you have to do that when you're soloing? No. You can still just let your ear tell you what sounds good. You don't have to focus on those unique intervals. But if you really want it to sound modal, focusing on the unique intervals that create the mode, yes, then you do want to do that. But the chords will still end up being the winner at the end of the day. So, yeah, I guess it depends on how much do you really want it to sound like that mode. Extra modey or just modey enough? I don't know. Holy crap, it's almost been 3 hours. Well, that's what Fridays are going to be like moving forward. It may not always be 3 hours of streaming. 1, 2, or 3 hours. I'm thinking 3 hours is probably going to be my max. Whew, that's a lot. So yeah, time to wrap things up. So while I look for this caged system thing he talked about, the 3 free chord. Well, where is the video? Here, let me just do this. Let me go to his channel and search for it there. Caged. The most comprehensive caged lesson ever. This one is Cage explained in 10 minutes. I've got quite a few. This one is the magic in the cage system you didn't know existed. Oh, 7 years ago. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go with the one that's 31 minutes long and it's more recent. So perhaps the more recent one is going to be the better one to look at. So let's add this one to the watch later. We'll make this the focal point next time since Sheriff asked about it. And hey, thank you for being on. This is good. Being able to yeah, let's see what save to watch later. Saved. All right, excellent. And then let's also remove this one. Yeah, just the whole struggling with guitar theory. Watch this. I have a pet peeve with videos that do those things. Like, I understand why they do it. It's to get videos, because it's like, do this thing and this happened. I was trying this and then my jaw dropped and then fell off. No, I was going to try and say a funny thing and I completely ruined it. Never mind. I don't have the brain capacity to be funny. Funny looking, but not funny talking. Anyway. Oy. The course that would be best for me would be the Metronome Method ebook. Well, that would be a fantastic thing to go through. So yeah, I mean, that just goes over the principles of how to use the metronome and get the most out of it, which can be applied to anything. Yeah, depending on, so I don't know what tier you signed up for. I don't know if you did like the free week thing. If you did the free week thing, that's the lower tier, which still has a ton of stuff. I would look up the rhythm work sets and go with that and apply the metronome method to those things. Of course, if you did the $5 tier, then you got access to the rhythm course, and I would just do that. Still read the metronome method ebook though, because I'm gonna make a video on basically that anyway, and really get into it, because yeah, helpful stuff. All right, that's it. Well, heck, if you do in the again, I don't know which one you did, but yeah, the $5 and up tiers, like, you get access to that online there for the rhythm course, and that's going to help out a bunch, because anyway, just like it goes into detail to like what all the different rhythms are, how to count it, and demonstrations and all that good stuff. But yeah, the rhythm work sets will also be really helpful, because it goes over like the same rhythm 10 different ways, including like single note stuff and legato. So, I mean, all those rhythm-based things will really, really be the thing right there. But yeah, the ebook thing, I mean, that's one that anyone can get for free anyway. You don't even have to be on Patreon for that. I ask people sign up for the newsletter or the shred letter, and as a thank you, you get that book plus a thing on stuff to help out beginners. Oh, I haven't made it yet. Well, hopefully following the instruction stuff will help you get even more efficient practice, because that's what we want, efficiency. All right, time to call it. Thank you, everyone who came in and participated in the chat and watched and all that stuff. One of these days I'll get these streams edited down, but that's a long ways off. Hopefully I can at least get some timestamps in here and point people to the different things discussed. Or if somebody wants to add those in the comments, that would be great too. All right, that's it. I'm done. Thank you very much. I will stream again next week and probably see some familiar names in the comments.